Hello, my loves. Hello, hello, hello. My name is Destina. This is Spiritual Bougie Astrology, and we're going to be taking a deep dive look into the Sagittarius full moon that's coming up later this week, specifically June 3rd into June the 4th, depending on your time zone. Now, let's start this out with a really big disclaimer. Super big. I started my notes early yesterday when the moon was still in Libra, and by then it was like void, so not a whole lot got done. And everything that was kind of coming through was like super mundane. So like we need to know all the aspects of Jupiter and da 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 da. However, later into the evening when the moon went into Scorpio, more things came through, a lot more. And I'm not going to round what has all occurred in the last 24 hours, but I will kind of just go into some of the things that I felt were important and I understood. Even though I don't understand the full spectrum of everything, I am understanding that part of what's coming through next starts with the energy following the full moon. It's not even just the full moon. In fact, for a lot of people, the most mundane thing possible can be the full moon. It is the dynamic of what starts in this timeline, things that we've already been dealing with, one part of the weave, things that are just now coming through, another part of the weave, things that are coming through from like over a year ago, one part of the weave, and a new part of the dynamic is coming into play. Now, yesterday, when the moon went into Scorpio, did that square to Pluto, easy stuff. I was actually shopping for stuff that I need at my house. All of it, none of it frivolous. All of it was actually like stuff that was needed for my garden, stuff that's needed for my plant medicine and stuff like that. Very, very normal stuff. By the time the moon hit its conjunction to the South Node, honestly, I loved it. I have had a lot of peace whenever it comes to the moon and the South Node's transits. However, I'm saying this with a big grain of salt. I know that was not how everybody felt last night. And I could literally feel that in my heart. I'm pretty sure with a lot of people, when the moon hit the South Node last night, either you had waves of exhaustion or like waves of emotion where we felt we needed to release and let something go emotionally. For some people, there was like triggers of fear, anxiety kind of spiked. And again, this would have happened very, very late on May 31st, going into June 1st. Today, I am recording this on June 1st. This is not my attempt of recording it. However, this has been more human error than technological error, just to be clear. But I had something very clearly come through in my meditation, and that was not what I expected. And this is why I'm saying disclaimer. I feel like I'm going to be referencing back to this video in some of the other transits that are going to happen later this month. And not just later this month, but even going into July, because it hasn't even been 24 hours yet, and I still don't understand everything that's come through. So I'm deciphering still. However, I know enough to be able to really mess with everybody's head today. Now, what did I hear? Last night, when the moon made that conjunction to the South Node, it hit the opposition to Jupiter. And where is Jupiter? On the North Node. Very fated dynamic energy coming through. And I anticipated that I was going to get downloads during this time anyways, but I specifically wanted to download at this time of the North Node and Jupiter in their conjunction. And today, June 1st, the day that I'm recording this, it is the day that Jupiter and the North Node hit their conjunction. And I had a funny little thing, not funny to everybody, but curious funny to me. That did come through, and I'll tell you about that one here in a minute. That was a real life thing, not a download type thing. But there were some things that occurred, but what I heard was Mars conjunctions. What? Mars? Why Mars? Mars isn't even doing anything during this full moon. Just to be perfectly clear, Mars isn't squaring anything. It's not trining anything. It's not really doing anything during this full moon. It makes a small trine to the moon before that full moon perfects. But all in all, there's not a huge Mars transit tied to this. But I heard Mars conjunctions. And then I had to think about it. And for the rest of this little disclaimer timeline. We're not going to use the moon. The moon is not going to be a part of the conversation. What I'm looking at is planetary conjunctions. So I thought about it. When was the last time Mars had a planetary conjunction? Last summer. That was the answer. Now I knew the very last one because it was one that was like very activated for me. It was right on my natal, on my natal north node. And that was Uranus, Mars, and the north node made a triple conjunction August 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. So literally the last time that Mars and Uranus were touching were August 3rd. That was the last conjunction. Before that, when was the last time Mars made a conjunction? To Jupiter. And that occurred May 29th to May 30th, right at the edge of eclipse season, and right after that last Mercury retrograde ended. No, not last. That Mercury retrograde ended in May of 2022. May 29th, May 30th. Memorial weekend of 2022, just a year ago. These were the last two planetary conjunctions that Mars made. Oh. Well, one of those was a year ago. Literally a year ago. So it got me curious. I was like, well, I'm thinking about it. I knew that Venus and Mars weren't going to make a conjunction once Venus goes into Leo. What's going to happen is that Mars is already there. Mars is slower. Venus is going to hop in the sign, and they're going to get very, very, very close. They're going to get literally within about 3 to 4 degrees. And then Venus is going to spin in place at the 28-degree mark. She's going to be stuck there for like 3 weeks. Mars is going to go into Virgo. She's going to turn retrograde and go back. What's going to happen again after that? Mercury is going to do the same thing. Mercury will go through Leo. It'll hit that conjunction to Venus. So that means parts of this video is going to tie to that Venus retrograde. Okay. Mercury's going to go into Virgo, and Mercury does the same thing all over again. Mars is going very, very slow. Mercury will hit Virgo, come in, nearly catch up, but never make the conjunction. Turns retrograde and go back. What that tells me is that for many of us going into this summer, we're going to get so far into something, we're going to get super close to something, but it's not going to pan out. And we're going to have to flip a Yui. We have to go back over things. Now, some of those things are going to be very aesthetic because it's Venus's retrograde. Others, it's going to be about the information and the topics and the logic. And that's because the next Mercury retrograde is going to be in Virgo, which is mutable Earth, which means we need to have our facts straight. Remember that part. So, where does the next Mars conjunction happen? It's not going to happen until October 28th. And that also happens to be the day of the out of sign full moon eclipse in Taurus. I can't make that up. I actually have it up on the screen. I'm going to show you guys here in a minute. What's going to happen is between late October and mid-November. So it's like October 28th is the first one. November 18th is the second one I'm going to talk about. Mars is going to make a conjunction to Mercury. Right after that eclipse perfects, and it's going to happen opposite Jupiter. Then the next one that's going to occur will be the Sun and Mars. That one's actually going to occur in the later degrees of Scorpio. So it'll be right before Scorpio season ends. And those will be the next two real conjunctions. For the purpose of this part, we're not including the moon. We're not including the moon. Are there other aspects to Mars? Yes. We've got squares, we've got oppositions, we've got trines. Not talking about that. Talking about conjunctions, because that, again, is what came through in my meditation. Mars conjunctions. Now, that seems really specific. Why would it be Mars conjunctions? And then I'm thinking about it. Jupiter is conjunct the North Node right now. And energetically, over these next 6-7 weeks, these two are like doing a baton swap, key swap. Here's the Jeep keys, here's the bike keys, here's your helmet. Great, super excited. The North Node's running off with the bike, and Jupiter has the Jeep. That's what's going on right now. There is a shift in the dynamics. And you guys have heard me say this before, and I'm going to continue to say it because I'm feeling it even more now. There's a shift in the dynamics. Now, I think back to August of last year. We had a Uranus North Node conjunction, and it actually lasted for weeks because Uranus stationed at the 18-degree mark where it met with the North Node. So we had a moment in time where certain things felt frozen. We couldn't get technology to pan out. We couldn't get certain connections to function independently. Many of us actually had to make certain sacrifices of our independence during that time because we couldn't go any further. Somebody else couldn't go any further. There was an obstruction. There was an adjustment. There was an obstacle of some sort. Now, when Uranus was conjunct the North Node, I didn't get like a huge Martian energy. I didn't even get it when Mars was in the mix. Honestly and truly, the day that triple conjunction happened, I'm sitting here expecting like something crazy to happen. No, I get a call from my ex-husband going, "Can you watch the dog?" When we got divorced, we had 2 dogs. I got one, he got one. And on occasion, we actually have a decent relationship and we swap the dogs out. Like he helps me out whenever my mom's really sick and he takes the dogs for me. And then if there's something going on, he's having to work extra, I'll take the dogs from him. The dog, not plural. There's one. We had 2 together. I have another one now and he loves my new dog. So he takes the other one too. Anyways, so there wasn't anything like crazy to that timeline. Now, everybody's going to be very different. Some things could have been like super impactful during that time. But honestly, if you go back and you look at August 1st, there wasn't anything that like just super stood out about it. So for lack of a better way to say it, I feel like a seed was planted. Now I look at some of the recent transits and the recent conjunctions to the North Node. And all of them have been with very fast-moving planets up until now. Venus, when she went through Aries, she blasted through there, not even a full month, shoop, and then she was in Taurus. When Mercury went through there, 3 weeks, shoop, done. The Sun, it's always a month, done. But Jupiter's different. For the better part of a year, literally since that May timeline that I'm talking about, because it was May 11th of 2022. That's whenever Jupiter went into Aries. So we were just barely into it whenever Mars and Jupiter made that conjunction. Now we've got a fully cooked Jupiter. Many of you have heard me say in the last few episodes that a lot of Jupiter's energy, whenever it has come to Aries, has been one of 2 things. It's either been like we must create something, we must do something, we've had a certain project to do, we've had work to do. The thing about Aries is it's a very pioneer energy. It's independent. This is why I say pioneer. We all had individual work that needed to be done, independent work that needed to be done. And right now we're going into this energy of like, if you did the work, we feel the things starting to pan out. We're starting to see things pan out. However, if you didn't do the work and instead everything started to burn up by the end of Jupiter and Aries transit, burning up relationships, burning up connections, burning up your friendships, burning people in general. And y'all know who you are. If you were the one that was recently burned, or if you were the one doing the burning, you know who you are. There was a huge shift. And right now, Jupiter and the North Node in their conjunction, this is a freshly cooked. A little overdone. She's a little scorched. It's like jerky. Jupiter is a big old thing of jerky cake because it's Jupiter and a big booty. If you watch one of my other episodes, you know what I'm talking about. There's a lot more fire to Jupiter's energy because we just transitioned. The North Node is crossing paths with Jupiter and is about to go into Aries. It's about to go into Mars' sign. And I've said this before. I'm reiterating what I'm saying right now. We are going through a shift in dynamics between now. We've been in this for a while because I've actually been saying this since the beginning of May. So through May into June and going into July, we're going through a shift in the dynamics. The rulership of the upcoming eclipse cycle will not change, but the dynamics of them will. The North Node, the mouth, the head of the dragon. Dragons breathe fire. Going into a fire sign. There's going to be a lot of fire. A lot of things scorching, burning up. A lot of things boiling and boiling up. A lot of things building up. And I don't mean build up in the negative sense, because if we've been doing the work and the pioneer energy and the independent stuff, that's going to be the build up. It's going to be a part of the build. We're shifting our dynamic. We're going into something new. And part of the new energy from this full moon and the weeks that are going to follow is going to lead to things that are very specific in October and November. Now, some of y'all, if you've really been listening to me since the beginning, have heard me say the things that have been going on for a while. We're going to come back to them at the end of this year. This is another layer to that. It's not reiterating what I've said before. It is literally adding another layer. And that's exactly what I feel like. The reason I've been saying for so long, and I'll be able to show it to you whenever I pull up this October-November timeline here in a second. The reason I've been saying for so long that we will be going back into things that have like literally started back in March is because of Saturn and Saturn's energy. Saturn is now in Pisces, one of Jupiter's signs. That's why it's part of the importance here. Things that have been going on since March, when Saturn went into Pisces during the Virgo full moon, because that's when it happened. And which is another reason I'm saying there's going to be stuff in Virgo season, by the way. It plays into the dynamic shift. Saturn immediately entered shadow, because Saturn will turn direct at the end of its retrograde at 0 degrees. And right now, June 1st, when I'm recording this, Saturn's not even retrograde yet. So when I'm saying I'm picking up stuff like a month in advance, I don't even know the full perspective of what we're going into, but we're going to figure it out. We're going to figure it out together. Now, let's take a look at this screen. I have got this on October 28th. This is very, very late in the evening. So here we go. October 28th, 2023 at 11:44 p.m. Central Time. Earlier in the day, before noon o'clock Central Time, we have the out of sign full moon eclipse in Taurus. The reason it's an out of sign eclipse is because this full moon is less than 15 degrees away from this node. Node. Since the Libra Aries moon transit, so the Aries full moon will actually be at that roughly 5-6 degrees of Libra and Aries, that will be 20 degrees away from the node. That's why it's not the eclipse. We need to be within 15. This is actually within 11. So again, out of sign eclipse. We've already had multiple eclipses, and this isn't even the first out of sign eclipse that we've been having. So I'm going to remind everybody what has been going on since 2021. And I have more than one reason why I'm saying that 2021 note. So put a pin in that. We're going to come back to 2021 here in a second. The very first conjunction transit that we will finally have for the first time in 14 months, because that's how long it took, because we're not including the moon for the topic that we're talking about, will be Mercury and Mars. And that is actually going to perfect, depending on your time zone again, between the 28th and the 29th. For some people, it's going to be the 28th. For a lot of other people, it's going to be the 29th. It'll be roughly 12 to 14 hours after the full moon eclipse perfects, but it's also including a Moon-Jupiter conjunction. That's luck, by the way. Moon-Jupiter, that's luck energy. But this luck is contrary or opposite of logical action. Mercury, logic, action, Mars. So there's a big dynamic that's going to happen here. But this dynamic, it doesn't start in October. It's tied to this Sagittarius full moon that we're about to have this week, June 3rd, June 4th. This leads to other things. This leads to other energy. This leads to something into the future. And I'm specifically picking up the Mars conjunctions. The first one is October 28th, because I'm not including the South Node, by the way. I'm not including that either, because that's not even a planet. That's a magnetic point. Now, what happens after that? A few weeks later, Mercury's going to keep moving forward. I'm moving the whole thing by days, and I'm going to get us to November 18th. Yes, between the 17th and the 18th. It's more the 18th. No, it's right there, 17th. We're late. Okay. So between the 17th and 18th, we're going to do time zone thing again. But here's the sun, 25 degrees, 34 minutes. Here is Mars, 25 degrees, 35 minutes. So they're right on top of each other. Between November 17th and November 18th, we get the next one. And that one right there, the Mars sun, that's the start of a whole new sun-Mars cycle. That's a whole new cycle that starts. So parts of this Sagittarius full moon with Jupiter's conjunction to the North Node, it's feeding into the next Mars cycle that we're not even in yet. In fact, right now, we're kind of in the last quarter of it. Literally, the last quarter. Where I'm talking, this is June. The transit in front of me is November. So we're closing it out. So when did the last one start? Remember I said we're going to go back to 2021? Let's go back to 2021 for a second. Let's go back. First off, November 17th, 18th of 2021 was that out of sign eclipse. And since we're right here, I can just show you. Fast forward this by one. Oh, that went by 7 days. I want 1 day. Give me that. 1 day. There you go. It actually perfected right around that 27 degree mark. So here was the sun at 27 degrees of Scorpio. Here, moon, 27 degrees of Scorpio. There was an out of sign eclipse that started right as Venus was going into shadow for that retrograde. So we were doing the first level of clearing and making space for the new nodal axis. I didn't say that right. This was also an out of sign eclipse, and we had it November 18th. The nodes didn't finally change signs until January. However, this is not the Sun-Mars cycle that I was just talking about. I got to go back even further. I got to go back over a month. So I'm going to bump this to the 8th of October. I just almost said November. Okay. This is not the exact hour. Just trust me on that. But I have it on right now. The screen is on October 8th, 2021 at 11:44 p.m. Central Time. And this was the day of the last Sun-Mars conjunction. And it included a very retrograde Mercury. This is also whenever Venus had just went into Sagittarius. So again, we had certain elements that hadn't been fully understood. We had certain things, certain areas where space needed to be made, but they hadn't fully been made yet. There was a transition in a lot of the action and the activity that started here. So I'm going to remind everybody, where were you at? I want you to think about this. Go into your own notes. Go back through your photos, like go through your pictures and I always get so much from pictures. So I can go back to looking at pictures from this time of year and I'm going to remember certain things that they'll start to come back when you see the pictures. So that's why I always say, go look at pictures. If you have a journal, go back and read. If you have something else that you can go back, truck drivers, I know you guys can go back through your logs, like realtors, you can go back through your spreadsheets, lenders, you can go back through your spreadsheets. What started between October 8th of 2021 and November 18th of 2021? What was the energy here? Where were we bringing things forward? Where were we taking new steps? Where were we transitioning something? Because between now, the energy that we're in, from May into June of 2023 right now, we're in the last quarter of a Sun-Mars cycle that started in October of 2021. Now, I wouldn't necessarily always include that eclipse, but the thing is, there was an out-of-sign eclipse in Taurus. We're going to have another out-of-sign eclipse in Taurus. I can't ignore that. I'm seeing the pattern that tells me that there's more to it. That some of the things that are finally starting to go into place over these next 4 or 5 months, it's not just about the next 4 or 5 months. It is literally, that's been stuff that has been trying to shift and slide into place. There's been, sanding and wedging and hammering. Get the lube, grease it up, try to make it fit. We have been attempting to get something to fall into place that has not been able to fall into place. And what I feel is that these next 6 weeks, so I'm talking from June 1st of 2023, right now, until middle to end of July. And whenever we get to those parts of July, I know my DMs are going to be on fire, but there's going to be a series of transition tests, transition tests, transition tests, tests. And there'll be a lot more tests come the last part of July going into August. I want to be real clear about that. But the things for this full moon are leading into things that are going to go all the way into the end of this year. I'm not just saying that because of an eclipse. I'm saying that because of the energies that are coming through. And I felt like this was going to be a really powerful full moon, even though it's not an eclipse. But I didn't fully anticipate some of the downloads I've had in the last 24 hours. So I want to be clear about that. So I'm going to bring this back to present time. Here we are, June 1st. It is roughly like right before 8 p.m. And right within this last hour, the moon has been in Scorpio for roughly 24 hours. So I've already had the moon square Pluto. I've already had the moon hit the south node. I've already had the moon square from Mars and trine to Saturn. What I haven't had yet is the Mercury-Uranus oppositions. And those come later tonight going into tomorrow morning. So, meh. The other thing that hasn't occurred quite yet that's going to happen between now and that full moon is the exact part of the Neptune-Venus trine and the grand trine energy that we get tomorrow night. Because there's going to be a lot of emotional understanding to that, and that's going to be really nice. However, you can see right here, Jupiter and the North Node, they have had their exact conjunction. They're right on top of each other. 3 degrees, one's at 36 minutes, the other one's at 37 minutes. Close enough for government work. They're there. A very well done Jupiter making a conjunction to the North Node, the head of the dragon. And again, these two are kind of in a baton swap. They're swapping the keys. They're swapping their energy. They're passing something along. Okay, so this is what I fucked up over here, North Node and Taurus. And Jupiter's like, oh, but I just did all this work in Aries and something tells me you're going to go mess with all of it. No, I'm not going to do that. Whatever. Here's the thing. North Node in a fire sign is a lot of activity. The North Node in Aries is particularly reactive. I don't really like that. And I know how these transits are going to continue beyond just the eclipse axis transit. But like even at the end of the 18-month period of the North Node going through Aries, then it's going to start making the conjunctions to Saturn and Neptune whenever they have their sets of conjunctions going in between Pisces and Aries. And I'm just telling you, There's a lot of things coming these next few years that literally the seeds are being planted right now, and they've been getting planted. It's not just what you are planting as an individual. Now I'm talking like macro, big picture stuff. Some of the shit that we're dealing with right now, and it's so funny because I'll tell you like the things that I've seen in the last 24 hours. The debt ceiling finally hit like a finality on their negotiations, like they were. But then this morning I also had because I was in real estate for so long, I followed banks on social media because if I needed to tag them during my marketing, I could. I still follow some of the banks. I didn't go through and unfollow every single one because that would take a lot of brain effort that I didn't actively think of. So that's not how that went. Bank of Oklahoma, because I'm in Oklahoma, they put a post out that one of their third-party vendors was broken. I'm just going to say broken. And people's auto deposits weren't transiting right. People's debit cards weren't acting correctly. And I took a screenshot and I sent it to a group of my realtor lender people that I've done business with for years, that if we didn't do networking when I was still in real estate, then now they're my clients at a whole different level. Like I still have these people. And this is why a lot of the times you guys will hear me make so many real estate comments, is because one, I was in real estate for so long, and two, a lot of my people are in real estate in some way, whether it's insurance or lending or banking or actual being a realtor, builder rep, whatever. I've done business with these kinds of people for so long that I use that as a lot of my examples. One, because it makes sense to me, and two, because I know a lot of my clientele tend to be this way. I sent that little screenshot where it's just like, we're having a banking issue, and this has nothing to do with the debt ceiling. Basically trying to tell people, don't do a bank run without saying the words, don't do a bank run. And anybody wants to see this, I will totally I'll send it to you. I don't want to repost it because I don't want to create more issues or chaos for anybody, but I'll send you the screenshot because I saved it. But I sent that to my realtors and lenders in other markets. And the thing is, it really wasn't just like something local, like a little glitch in one system. No, it was, I had a realtor in Texas immediately go, yep, had an issue with the bank this morning. Glad to know it's not just me. Some of the Carolinas, yep, been having issues all day. Been having issues here, been having issues here. I'm like, oh, yeah, huh. When I said Jupiter in the North Node's conjunction for some people could literally mean like money going out the door, didn't necessarily put that part in perspective, but I at least warned you. Yeah, because you just when I'm looking at it, I'm looking at it as like, oh yeah, we just need to spend money, so we're buying extra things that we don't necessarily need or we don't want to need. Like I said earlier, I have my cart. It's like $300 worth of stuff on Amazon that I haven't quite ordered yet. But I know I'm going to be ordering it because the majority of that stuff is like very important for my garden and stuff like that. So I know it's coming. There's that. So again, right now, our energies going into this full moon are a mixture of one of two things with Jupiter in the North Node. I'm saying again, not because I said it in this video, because I said it in a previous video. We are kind of in a blend of one of two things. We are either in a blend of being consumed by hope, philosophy, things finally falling into place, having a new relief and a new aspect towards long-term prosperity, having something very much restored because there's a lot of cake and the North Node can't eat all of it. However, he's eating some of it. And what is the North Node consuming in the cake that he's eating? Money. Hope. I've had a lot of people in the last week that are just dreading certain things that are about to happen. They're dreading some of the changes. Some of that is because some people don't like change. Some of that is because literally the energy inside of them tells them that something bad is going to happen. And that really kind of comes down to, again, what's being activated in your chart and where Jupiter is at in your chart. And we're going to cover that in depth here in just a little bit. We are feeling things fall away from us. We are feeling like everything that we've ever known to be right is suddenly not right anymore. So losing knowledge, but you didn't necessarily lose knowledge, is that we're starting to see some knowledge is like out of date. This is the way we've done this for years. Yeah, that's great, Grandpa. Fax machines are done. Here's a computer. Learn what a PDF is. Don't be an asshole, Grandpa, but still, it's kind of that kind of thing. We're seeing like old ways of doing things fall out. Okay. We're seeing money just draining from our accounts. And I'm not meaning that in the sense of what I just told you. I'm meaning like going and spending the money. Some of us are suddenly losing hope. We feel like all of the hope is being drained from us because we can see certain things playing out. And we know in the long run, what's about to happen is not going to work out in our favor. It's not going to work out in the way that we want. It's going to affect us. And for many people, it's going to affect us in a negative way. And there is this sinking feeling that everything that we thought was solid and good and prosperous is now just being eaten up, eaten away at. And parts of this upcoming full moon that is not on the screen in front of us right now because it's still actually like moving by minute. Parts of this full moon are going to be the full shift towards the directions. I don't know that it's going to be a change in direction. For some people, it might. It might actually be the spark to show you, oh, you shouldn't be scared of change. And there will be some people I feel like are going to have that. But I don't feel like it's going to be a huge like shift for everybody. I feel like for a lot of people, it's going to be either solidifying the loss or it's the level up of where we're taking the next sets of energy. And why would I keep saying level up? Because Jupiter just spent a year in Aries, and Aries is about independence. Aries is a pioneer energy. If you go back and you look at the history books and you look at the Industrial Revolution, and whenever we had all of these advances of like steel and how we have bridges now and how we have trains and how we have newer ships and everything else, that stuff happened during Pluto and Aries. It did. Back in the 1800s, that's when it happened. Very much industrial, revolutionary, pioneer levels of energy. Parts of Manifest Destiny and people that were doing the gold rush, that was Neptune going through Aries. And we're chasing the dream of getting rich. Now, some people wanted to get rich fast. Other people were just taking the risk because they had believed it was going to pan out for them. For some, that's been going to be really helpful later on. For some, not so much, just to be clear. But there is a pioneering energy that was tied to Jupiter's transit through Aries. And now we're just in this very first stages of Jupiter being in Taurus. So again, this is a very well done, jerky level Jupiter. You can eat this cake, but you're going to be chewing for a while. You ain't going to eat all this cake because as much as you got to chew, I'm going to keep walking. You're only going to get a few bites. You're only going to get some of this, and then you're going to have to go do something else. You're going to transition into your next chapter. And that next chapter is going to be once the North Node goes into Aries. That's going to happen in July. When the North Node goes into Aries, that's whenever Mars is going to be in Virgo. And we are going to feel the middle parts of July. I'm telling you this now on June 1st. We are going to feel that middle part of July. So like the 15th, I'm just going to round it up to the 25th. It's not, I don't think it's quite that far out, but we're going to feel that a good 2-week span of just heaviness and action and so many tests to where we're going next. If it's not necessarily tests, and it's going to be like those some initial roadblocks or hazards or saying, hey, did you do the work? Hey, are you prepared? Hey, is everything lined out appropriately? For some people it is. For a lot of people it's not. And that's why we have the tests. But whatever those tests are going to be, wherever we're going, it really gets fueled up. We're at the gas station in this full moon. On the day of the full moon, this is the full moon in Sag. On the day of the full moon, it might just be the most mundane, simple, doesn't even hit your radar part of the transit. That's a big possibility. It could actually start to really pan out in the days following, and I have reasons why I'm saying that. We have some emotional understanding that needs to happen leading into this full moon. There is going to be a positive transitional shift that goes into the full moon, but then there is some very big surprises that immediately follow it. And I want to get into all that. So let me bump this to the 3rd. This is when the full moon's going to happen. It's not at this minute. It actually happens between like, is it 10:30 or 11:30? Yeah. It's going to roughly happen about 10:30 Central Time. Because right now I have it at 10:11 p.m. on June the 3rd. So I'm rounding it out to that. But the reason I'm saying the other part of this dynamic is we might get some very surprising news or events afterwards is because, one, where is Jupiter and the North Node making their conjunction? In Taurus. Who rules Taurus? Venus. What is Venus doing? Leaving her trine from Neptune and is about to go into Leo and hit that opposition to Pluto. We have a dynamic shift here where something is going to either like get completed right in those last little bits of Venus going through Cancer. It's like ending something, completing something, letting something go. An area where we have been foggy, not had everything understood. But after Venus goes into Leo, one, she's going to feel a lot more empowered, but two, she's going to hit that opposition of Pluto. So it's just like, yeah, new day. Knock, 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 knock at the door. Who is that? Something unexpected, because we're going to hit that opposition of Pluto. But before that even happens, we have to look at the other transit that's going to happen in Venus' sign. The other transit that's going to happen in Taurus, and that's going to happen the day after the full moon perfects, and that's right here. Mercury and Uranus. Mercury is going to make a conjunction to Uranus. Now, we were really close to a Mercury-Uranus conjunction back in mid-April. They were right about just less than 3 degrees. It was not a full 3 degrees. They were actually 2 degrees apart. Then Mercury turned retrograde. The thing is Uranus was still in shadow, so we weren't even going to get new information at the time. Now, Mercury is out of its shadow and making this conjunction to Uranus, but now Uranus is out of shadow. So we have new areas of independence and new technology, and there's going to be some type of announcement or news or breakthrough, something that has to do with technology, or we all hear it over the news, something. But there is going to be some type of dynamic news, announcement, new information, some type of like innovation that comes through during Mercury's conjunction to Uranus. Now, I want to say something else. The last planet that Mars conjuncted in 2022, on August 3rd of 2022, the last planet that Mars messed around with was Uranus. The first planet that Mars will make a conjunction to when we start the next round of Mars conjunctions was Mercury, babes. I already showed you that. It's Mercury. That's a part of why I'm saying this. I'm looking at the pattern. I'm looking at the information involved. So I'm putting in perspective, this moment of the full moon might just be the most mundane thing possible, but the energetic click, the beeping of the keys, the start and the rev of the engine, we might not hear it at first. We might not feel it at first. It might feel like we're in like a small hazy dream, and then we get surprised by something. We're getting surprised by a phone call. We get surprised by somebody else's dynamic and finally being able to break through something and face a fear, because Mercury and Uranus are going to conjunct, and then the next day Venus is going to hit that opposition to Pluto. So some of this news and some of the energy making us focus our energy, focus our mind, focus on another area where we need to have a certain conversation, where we need to really put something in perspective. Part of that is feeding into what's going to come in October. Be very clear. If you journal, notate your journal this day. Notate whatever starts to come through in the Mercury-Uranus conjunction, because I feel like it has a much bigger play later on. For more than one reason, but I feel like it's a much bigger play. So, when we look at this full moon, I'm going to start backing this up because I want to get the ascendant to Aries so we can get this started, and I will go over everybody's stuff. Are we getting there? Yeah, I'm getting close. Sorry. My eyes start to blur after a while, and I'm not used to always wearing my contacts. So I want to look at a couple things. One, I'm going to break down this full moon by rising sign. We're going to go over what Jupiter rules by whole house. So that means I'm only going to refer to Jupiter, in this case with Aries, Jupiter rules your 12th and your 9th. So we're only going to talk about that. If you like Placidus and you're like, oh, well, Pisces rules 2 houses for me, I'm not talking about that. It's whole house system. At the end of all of these, then I'm going to do an extra layer, and there will be an extra timestamp for this. And it's going to be me doing a quick breakdown of what Jupiter in a house represents, because I don't want you to just look at with this full moon what Jupiter rules in your chart. I also want you to pay attention to your natal Jupiter, because Jupiter's conjunction to the North Node has a very faded energy tied to it. And I've already been seeing the first inklings of this for myself. I'm saying this as somebody that has my natal Jupiter in my 4th house of home life, and family, and I can't even tell you what the powwow was like this weekend. I will have to tell you guys much later, because I got to see how more of that plays out. But the one thing I will say, and my sisters will attest to this, is that for the very first time in my entire life, I didn't feel like a fish out of water. I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be at the time that I was there, and I'm very grateful for that. But that also immediately showed me part of the shift in my dynamic and part of the things that I'm dealing with on my own personal level. It's not just 7th house stuff, because I'm a Scorpio rising. It's also tying into families, tribes, root, in my case, tribe. Not everybody gets tribe. So it really just kind of comes back to how far you go down in your ancestral lineage. So clans, tribes, the skeletons in the closet, the secrets under the rug, whatever those are, those things are going to start to shift. And they're also a part of this. So I'm going to go over not just the ascendant and the rising sign, but at the end, I will do an extra layer, and I will go over what Jupiter in your natal houses, what that placement stands for. I'm not going to do it by sign. I'm going to do it by numerical house. So if I'm going to go with my 4th house now. Your 4th house is Aquarius. I'm not going to break it down by Aquarius. I'm just going to say 4th house. So it doesn't matter if your 4th house is Aquarius or Scorpio or Aries. I'm just going to do that. So there's that. I don't know why I grabbed the pencil. I want to have stuff in my hands again. Okay. For Aries and Aries rising, we have a full moon in your 9th house. How you connect to your higher self, how you connect to source, how you deal with things in regards to education, higher levels of learning, institutions. 9th house is very heavy with institutions. Those institutions can be hospitals, they can be the judicial system, so it can be the courts, it can be jailhouses, it can be hospitals and doctors' offices, actual institutions where if you go in, it doesn't matter if you're meeting Joe Bob the tech or the nighttime retired ballerina, you're still getting the same x-ray. Just humoring me in my weird example. That's what I got. That's what came to my head just now. Where you're dealing with the institution, where you go do your labs. It doesn't matter which tech did your lab, but that lab needs to go to the doctor. It needs to go to the hospital. It needs to go through a system. Institutions. While Jupiter, the ruler of your 9th house and the ruler of your 12th house, is in your 2nd house of money. Your money, your assets, how you make money, how you spend money. Whenever it comes to 2nd house things, it also has to do with what you value. So valuables. So that can be assets, but it can also just be like, if you value experience over assets, you might spend more money doing concerts, going to dinners. That can be more 2nd house things. This can also go into garden because you intake food. So where are you putting your money? Are we trying to invest in something? Are we trying to get more of an investment so that way we can handle something or deal with something? There is an area where we can talk to institutions to gain something. Now, some of us, it's also putting us into very uncharted territories. Why? Because Jupiter also rules your 12th, and that's where Saturn is. You know, Daddy Saturn. We love him. We love him until he gives us too many headaches, and then we're just like, can you give it a break? I'm saying that very, very loosely. Can we give it a break? But there is something here that for some people, it is either putting us into completely uncharted territory. It's putting us into an area that we've never dealt with before. If we're expanding, we've had some hopeful idea that we're going to grow our business. And that means we need to go to the bank and ask for money. We need to go to an attorney to draw up LLC paperwork. We have to do something that changes the experience, changes the lessons that we're doing. But for many of you, it's taking you into uncharted territory. And that can be a good thing and that can be a bad thing. Again, this comes down to the work you've done. Where have you been putting your energy and where is it going to go from here? But Saturn in the 12th, Saturn can do really well in the 12th. But the thing is we don't get the full repercussion of what his representation is there until Saturn hits your first. And that's not going to happen for 3 years. It's going to be a while. So this can up front be a very dynamic energy. But in the long run, there can be repercussions. So don't be overly bold and overly boastful. Don't overpromise just to underdeliver. Be very, very conscious of what you're going for and make sure all of them are very attainable. Because if we go with the inflated ego, because you did just have Jupiter in your first house for a year, babes, if we go with the inflated ego energy, once the North Node goes into your first, it's going to be real hard to break it. In fact, it's going to make you very egocentric in a lot of ways. Not every way, some ways, but you get real focused on, I want this, I want this, I need this, I need this. And it can be very empowering, but it can be very blinding. So again, make a plan that is easily attainable. That way the tests later on don't end up costing you everything in the farm. Trust me on this. I don't just look at the one aspect, I look at the long-term aspects too. So I'm warning you now, take cautious steps. Mars, your chart ruler, is in your 5th house. You are taking control of your luck, and that's a good thing. But, I'm going to say it again, remember to take cautious, careful steps. Okay. Moving this along, we got Taurus and Taurus rising. We are talking about a full moon in your 8th house. Jupiter rules your 8th house. What else does Jupiter rule? Your 11th house. Friends, network, colleagues, the people that you choose to do business with. Your clients can be a part of the 11th house. The children of another can be the 11th house. I've never actually said that before, but I've felt that it was very necessary to bring that up. And you have Jupiter in your first house. Now, for a lot of my Taurus risings right now, y'all are in huge dynamic shifts whenever it comes to partnerships. Some obligation you've had with another person, whether it's been a legal matter or an actual partnership, does not have to be romantic. It could have been a business partnership, but we have had some things that we felt like was getting done behind our back that wasn't easily understood, that wasn't easily noticeable. And a lot of people are starting to really see the full effect. The good news about Jupiter going through your first house is that you're going to have a year of Jupiter kind of restoring faith in a lot of ways, restoring your knowledge, restoring parts of your ego. And I don't mean that in the negative sense. I mean that a lot of ways in the spiritual sense, because Jupiter was just in your 12th. And you've had a lot of awakening energy, eye-opening energy, because Jupiter was awakening karma and it was awakening your spirituality. It was awakening the past. It was awakening so many things on so many levels. And now you're going to see how that's going to affect you as a person. That's going to be a big part of the next year. This full moon in your 8th house can be a trigger of transformation. How is that transformation happening? If you are recently dissolving a partnership or relationship, then parts of that transformation is you. Parts of that transformation is of the shared things. Hasn't been that long since I got divorced. So some people, they don't care. I was that person. Like by the end of it, it's like, I want my house. I want my Jeep because I paid for it. And we're going to have to talk about the dogs. I don't want any of this other stuff. However, he wanted to fight it, and that ended up backfiring on him. That was on him. Now, some of this is going to be about literally the next few weeks following the full moon is dividing the assets. No. I bought this. It's mine. I don't care. Take it. But you can't have that. Nope. You can't have it. But you bought it for me. I paid $3,000 for that. No. That stays. You leave. There's going to be some division of assets. Well, on the flip side of that, some of y'all ain't losing anything. Some of you have actually just started relationships. You have been in uncharted territories. You've been getting to know somebody. You've had a lot of things shift and change. And now what you're going into is moving in together. You're taking steps forward. You're looking at how the bills are going to get split, how things are going to come together, how we're going to be able to work out. Well, this is how, whenever my kids come in, okay, I get my kids on these weekends. Can we work it out to maybe always get the kids on the same weekends? Like we start to do the shared combination. That's where the level up energy is, not necessarily the dissolution, fading away, loss of hope thing. That's more the positive side. And that Venus retrograde that's coming up in your 4th house, that really leads into this. And it shows us that there is a big dynamic in where you're going to be in regards to your future. But not all the work is done there yet. Keyword yet. Now, on the flip side, Jupiter has been going through your 12th for a while, and now we're having an 8th house full moon. I'm going to throw an extra layer onto this, and I don't feel like this is going to be everybody, but I do feel like we're going to see some dynamic. And that is, in the days around this full moon, having some type of secret, something that's not easily shared, coming to the surface, whether that's your secret or somebody else's secret. Now, notice I said the kid thing earlier. I'm going to say it again. The 7th house is other people. The 5th house from the 7th house is children of another. So if you have a partner, this can be stepchildren. If you have a friend, 7th house, this can be like going to the kid's birthday party. I've said this before. I actually said this one for the Libra risings. Was that the new moon or full moon train? Oh, a couple of transits ago. I did this. I actually talked about the kid party as an example then too. It's like going to the kid's birthday party and running into a parent whose kid is friends with your kid. But that parent has some type of information. It's like, yeah, so how long you been divorced now? I'm not divorced yet. You're not? You know that look? It's like, crap, I've opened my mouth. What did I just say? It's that type of thing. It's like talking to a friend, talking to the parent of one of your kids' friends. It is talking to another person and having something shared that's not expected. Oh, I really like kinky stuff. Oh, I got a safe word and everything. Okay, pineapples, I'm done. Thank you. No, I don't need to hear all this. Keep it to yourself. For other people, it's going to be like, I'm starting to see so-and-so. Your divorce isn't final. I don't care. Like, there can be, this is a very mundane part of this. We can have another layer where it's like a secret getting revealed around this full moon, whether it's your secret or somebody else's secret, kind of comes down to that perfection year. But there is something that needs to be faced very, very soon. And like the trickle effect of some of the news can come through here. If you have had an inkling that somebody you recently broke up with wasn't being fair and honest, that can be the secret that gets revealed. During the full moon exactly? Not necessarily. In the weeks following the full moon? Yes. It's very likely. Okay. For Gemini and Gemini risings, this is a full moon in your 7th house of relationships, partnerships, everybody else in their bullshit, obligations, legal matters. There is going to be a dynamic shift in regards to your commitment with another person. It can be a romantic commitment, it can be a business commitment, but there is something that is coming to a close because Jupiter, the ruler of your 7th house, is in your 12th. The unknown, the unseen, endings, karma, release, spirituality, blindsiding. What does Jupiter also rule? It rules your 10th house of career, hopes and dreams for the future, your public image, the things that you want to do successfully, the things that you want to do well, your plans for the future, 10th house stuff. And Saturn is putting a lot of weight on your public image. And the results for many Gemini risings after that Mars retrograde and after Saturn went into your 10th is that certain Gemini risings that took that energy to the shadow side of Gemini, well, you've got a lot of things that's been coming full circle. And I said this during the Scorpio full moon eclipse a month ago. I'm going to reiterate it right now. If you, Gemini risings, you took it to the negative side, the shadow side, the darker side, babies, you are still dealing with the consequences of your actions. It ain't done yet. It ain't. However, not every Gemini rising went to the negative. Not every Gemini rising took everything to the worst place. In fact, many of you felt the weight of Mars changing you and transforming you, and you started to work on your body, and you started to work on your health, and you put more perspective of what's important for you, and you did the frickin' work, and I love you and I'm proud of you. However, not everybody likes the work that you've done. In fact, more and more Gemini risings are starting to see things unravel, things falling apart, things coming through that are almost blindsiding you. And little by little, they're impacting your decisions of how you want things to go in your career, how you want things to go in the future, how you want things to go in your relationship. And decisions are about to be made. And they're not easy decisions. Some of you are about to end a relationship. Some of you ain't even going to tell somebody you're in a relationship. Some of you, if you've been in a relationship and you've been trying to be on all your P's and Q's and mind your manners and try to correct everything that happened during the Mars retrograde timeline. And I'm sorry, the Mars retrograde timeline was shitty for everybody. but especially the Gemini Sagittarius axis. I know so many Sagittarius risings that their relationships went to hell, and I know so many Gemini risings that their whole life felt like it got turned upside down during that timeline, and I understand it. Some of you are going to have to make the decision that if you're going to continue to work well for yourself, if you're going to continue to take certain actions for yourself, for your own mental health and your own mental well-being, that means leaving other people behind that do not support you. That's not easy, but it can be a big part of this energy. And it can lead to needing to take a step back and break away. And some of you are going to find yourself needing to just kind of travel. Like, okay, I think I want to go home for the weekend. I want to go to the lake for the weekend. I just need a break. I need to go camping. I need a road trip that doesn't end. See you at the end of Route 66. And I'm pretty sure, like, altogether driving that through and seeing all the sights, like, that could be up to like a 2-week thing. But hey, that would be a hell of a way to break through the fog. There's something here. Something here that is making a shift happen. And either we are completely seeing another person for exactly who they are. There's another person that is completely seeing you for just how much of an asshole you have been. Or we're ending an illegal matter. Now I'm going to add one more layer to this. If you're not having to deal with a legal issue that's impacting your career and impacting your future, if you're not dealing with a relationship issue or letting somebody go or walking away from a friend, some of you could be dealing with a health matter, whether it's your own health matter or the health matter of a loved one. There is still a dynamic here that we're closing out an axis of the 6th and 12th house for you. And parts of these next few weeks could mean letting somebody go in another way. Ending an obligation, and I'm saying this as somebody that I'm taking care of somebody full-time right now. I take care of my mom. In the past, like when my grandmother was sick with cancer, I took care of her. And technically speaking, my obligation to her in the way I cared for my grandmother then ended when she passed. This can also be parts of that for certain Gemini risings. Parts of your obligations to other people could very much fall away and pass. Literally pass. Their illness, that area of life, letting somebody go, and going more on a spiritual internal journey. A spiritual journey can definitely start to take place once we get into July, not so much June, but I want to put that in perspective now because I think some of you need to hear it. That if you feel like you're getting more and more lost and that you're more and more in uncharted territories and you're more and more in an area of life that doesn't make sense, there are reasons why. Babies, of part of the last 2 months, at one point y'all had like 5 planets in your 12th house of the unknown, the unseen, and endings. Your chart ruler, Mercury, has been in Taurus since the beginning of April. Like, he's going to be there for 2 months completely. Like, or it wasn't the beginning. It was the beginning of April. Yeah, we're getting close to that. So it's going to be over too. We're almost to the end of that stint also. So you are still dealing with things in a way that you've never dealt with them before. You are in uncharted territory and you are having a major shift in your hopes and dreams of the future, in your career, and in your public image. And some of you are feeling the effects. Some of you are finding yourselves in uncharted territory, or some of you are saying, I've done all of this work and I have zero support, and we're suddenly going, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. Bye. Boy, bye. Girl, bye. I'm done. If you need to do that, then do it. All right, my loves. Okay, for Cancer and Cancer rising, we are talking about a full moon in your 6th house. How you care for yourself, how you care for other people, parts of your routine, parts of your work, things that have to do with pets. I got to be clear about that. Usually sixth house is more like livestock pets, but if like you're a breeder, that would still go into sixth house. Um, but something that can have to do with the pets. Now, Jupiter also rules your ninth house. Long distance travel, institutions, how you connect to your higher self, church and religion, how you learn through different experiences. And where is Jupiter? In your 11th house. Friends, network, colleagues. Jupiter just ended a stint in your 10th house of career. Many of you have had to take on new areas of life, new areas in your career. You're having to level things up. And that level up, that adjustment that has been had, is now impacting your relationships with other people. It is impacting your friends. It is impacting your loved ones. Now, some of you in the coming weeks is going to have to travel to be able to get something accomplished whenever it comes to work or whenever it comes to a client. When I say travel, I mean like if you're in Texas, you might be flying to Florida. If you're in Florida, you might be flying to California or Nevada or Kansas. I don't know who flies to Kansas from Florida, but still, hear me out. Hear me out on that. There's something in the dynamic here that tells me that much of where we're going next is going to really impact your career and your home life. Many Cancer risings are going to find themselves in the next, it's not 18 months right now, it's 18 months, it starts in July, so 19 months starting right now in June of 2023. In the next 19 months, you're going to see yourself taking huge strides in your career and huge strides into your future, but that means you're going to have to sacrifice where you call home. And it's going to mean uprooting yourself or changing and solidifying what a move has already been made. Some of you have already been making roots, or you've already made the move, but you haven't fully, like, you got an apartment, you're staying in an RV, no judgment if for people that do that, because I know a lot of people that like to do that, but you haven't bought a house, you haven't established the roots, you haven't established something. And for you to have the future that you're wanting, the career that you're wanting, and everything else that you're wanting, that means finding peace at home. For others, it is going to be about losing connections to home, losing connections to roots, losing connections to ancestry, losing parts of your tribe. Some of you are going to potentially lose connection with maternal figures. Does that mean every Cancer rising that their mom is going to pass in the next 19 months? No, it's not what I said. What I said was lose connection. Some people you're going to have a falling out. Others, it is going to be the passing. Some, it's going to be boundaries. You can't just come over to my house anymore. And that's going to create a rift. Is it going to give you peace? Absolutely. Is mom going to be happy with the fact that you've changed the locks and her key doesn't work anymore? No, but we don't care. We don't care, because what's important to us at this moment is making sure that we're caring for ourselves appropriately. We are caring for the person that we love appropriately. We are doing what's necessary in our routine to be able to learn new things, experience life in new ways, and take new things on that will better our future, our hopes and our dreams and our goals, our career, our public image, and it's going to continue to increase and better our business relationships, our client connections. We're going to be emphasizing energy in a whole new area of life following this full moon. It's not heavy. I like it in a lot of ways, but I'm also putting the seeds in there that it's got a bigger long-term effect that we can't see quite yet. Okay, for Leos and Leo rising, this is a full moon in your 5th house. Love, luck, joy, romance, happiness. Where is Jupiter? In your 10th house of career. This is like a really great transit for Leo risings. I'm just saying that right now. in your 10th house of career. You guys have had so much heaviness. You've not had good relationships with your partners. You have not been having a great relationship with your friends, things with your clients, things that have not been panning out, and you have needed and strive towards gaining a new level of independence, whether that's independence from a marriage or that romantic kind of relationship, whether it's been independence in an actual business partnership and having to make an adjustment here. There has been a lot of life experience for you guys over the last year that now you are going to take into the next parts of the future and where you're going next in life, and the benefits are going to be huge for you. There's a facelift coming for Venus once Venus comes into Leo. There's a facelift coming during that Venus retrograde. That's all great, but we have to have that shift in our luck first, babies. And some of you, if you've been doing the work and you've let go of the past and you quit holding grudges and you're trying to go forward in a new direction, what you're going to find is a whole new purpose in life. The gains of experience are going to be so impactful, and you will see just how important the new area of life and the new trajectory and career and the new goals are going to not just impact you and improve your life, but it's going to improve other people's lives and the people you do business with, your clients. If you're a landlord, your tenants. If it's, if you're a realtor, then it's all the people that you do your networking with. If it's a lender, like it's getting the best new, loan option available. If you're a nurse, it's like getting a whole new level of access because you're a manager now and you can get the medicines differently. It's having a new cell phone in your pocket that speed dials every doctor in the hospital. It is getting the new truck that has all the space to where you can actually, for my truck driver people, that you can actually like build your kitchen in. For some of you, it's finally having a shift in regards to love and children. There's a lot of Leo risings that y'all are itching for families. The South Node in the 4th has been like, I want my home life to be something of peace. I want this area where I can finally have something that's mine. We'll have something that needs to be released. We have a whole new trajectory that's coming through. And we see that as just as important for the future as the shift in luck, as that shift in partnership. For many Leo risings, what's going to follow this full moon is going to be the baby that you've been trying to get. It's going to be that love connection that you've been trying to make. It's going to be that shift. And you're going to start to see a very serious transformation. Why do I say transformation now? Because Jupiter also rules your 8th house. If you've been dealing with legal matters and this level of like shifts in partnerships, then what you're going to see is that the tests that have been dealing with the shared finances or the debt or the things that need to be broken apart, they're getting close to where we're almost done with that. And what's going to happen is Saturn's going to turn retrograde and go backwards over areas of the sky that he's already been in. And he's going to put a whole new perspective as to like why this needed to go away, why this partnership doesn't work anymore, why this needed to be paid off, why this needed to be shifted, why you got this bill, why you got this paperwork. And there is a shift. And that perspective can be very transformative. It can be very helpful, or it can be daunting and weigh on you because it is Saturn. And Saturn in your 8th can make you feel like you're always going to be questioning where the money is, where it's coming from and where it's going. And you probably are really feeling that right now because Jupiter's conjunction to the North Node, for a lot of people, again, is making it feel like everything's being consumed and falling away. As Jupiter separates from the North Node, that energy won't feel as heavy anymore. And as Jupiter separates from the North Node, Saturn's also going to turn retrograde. So that means it's not going to be as heavy anymore. We start to go in a different direction. Okay, my loves. So for Virgos and Virgo risings, we are talking about a full moon in your 4th house of home life, family. There's a shift here. What else does Jupiter rule for you? Your 7th house of relationships and partnerships, obligations. There is a connection change that's coming here. Many of you are now connecting to a new guru. Why do I say guru? Because Jupiter's in your 9th. You're getting new connections in your faith. You're getting new connections in your spirituality. You're leaning into somebody new that is going to impact your future, but not impact you in the romantic sense, Saturn in your 7th, but more in the life experience sense. You're getting new experiences this year. You're getting new experiences moving forward. And there's going to be a big focus that all of these things had to fall into place for a certain reason, because there's such a big impact for where we're going into the future that we realize the way we've done things in the past, the way things have gone in the past, the reason certain connections didn't work out in the past was because we weren't in the right vibe, that we needed to make adjustments, that we needed to make changes, that we needed to do something different. Now, for many Virgo risings, the thing that is deep inside of you is I need to move, I need to go, I need to travel, I need to change, I need experience, I need a new experience, and I need to learn. There'll be a lot of lessons over this next year. And the inklings of where those lessons are going to take you are going to happen in the days following the full moon. You might get 1 or 2 ideas heading up to it, but I feel like it's more going to be following it. And many Virgo risings are going into uncharted territory. And I've said this before. Some Virgo risings, you're going into uncharted territory is going to be based off of relationships because Saturn is in your 7th. The thing is, Saturn is a very slow moving planet. And the first round is usually a test. It doesn't fully line out. And we've got a killer ending to Saturn in Pisces once we get to the last part of 2025. And that's going to be all the Saturn-Neptune conjunctions that are going to happen. And they're going to happen between Pisces and Aries. Can't make that up. That Venus retrograde that's coming up in your 12th house, for some of you, it's going to be a firm test of your spirituality. For some of you, it's going to put you into uncharted territory. For some of you, it's going to put you into a very spiritual place. And I feel like for a lot of you, you're going to lean into a bit of a dark night of the soul. Parts of the energy right now and where they're taking you and the uncharted territory that everything is taking you into is because we're moving into a place you've never been before. You're connecting in ways that you've never connected before. You are feeling drawn and called to something or some place or somewhere that you've never been before. You are in uncharted territories. And for some of you, that's going to result in emotional, spiritual development. So again, I'm saying some of you are headed towards a dark night of the soul. If it's your first one, whoa, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. If it's not your first one, it's not the worst thing in the world. The worst one's always the scariest because sometimes you're just like, why do I feel like I'm going crazy? You're not. You're not. I'm saying this as somebody who's been spiritual my entire life. And I didn't even think I could have a dark night of the soul. And then I had a dark night of the soul and I was just like, what? Luckily, I knew what that was, and I knew what was happening to me when it happened. I was just like, I didn't even think I could feel like this. Holy crap. But it happened. This is going to be like that. It's either going to be like another dark night of the soul, but it's revisiting energies you've already dealt with before because of new triggers and new situations and new topics. Or it's going to be putting you into uncharted territories. And I'm going to remind everybody at the end of this video, but I'm saying this now to you guys right this second. And that is, we don't start relationships in Venus retrogrades. Period and end of story, because they don't come out well. People that get swept up into Venus retrograde energy, seriously. Venus and Mars retrogrades. We don't start relationships in those. We don't. because the energy that we're going to be in is temporary. And if we start making long-term decisions based off temporary moments, that leads to mistakes. That leads to misdirection. That leads to a lot of shit going wrong later on. And the problem I have with that is the fact that the South Node, loss, release, letting go, something that's headless, is going into your second house of money. That means there's going to be an adjustment in regards to money and assets and valuables. There are going to be things that we used to feel were very important to us that we're going to be suddenly just letting go of. There's going to be certain values now in the, not the valuable sense, but like in our integrity type things. There are going to be some values that come into question in the months ahead. And the things that are going to make you make questions, they're coming in. For some of you, they've already come in. For many of you, they're really going to start to show their head after that full moon. Like you get the first inkling, you get the first hit. This area that we have been consumed by will suddenly go, light bulb. Where did that come from? Why are you acting this way? You're super clingy all of a sudden. Why are you acting crazy? Be aware. We're going into big long-term energy, but there's still some aspects of the energy that is very, very temporary. And if you aren't in the right spot, the temporary energy will really bite you guys in the ass. Okay. For Libra and Libra rising, this is a full moon in your third house. Communication, connections to your siblings, mindset, the way that you think about things that you've known knowledge-wise since childhood. Ingrained, lessons, like, well, I've always done it this way. This is the way I learned. This is the way I was taught. When were you taught? When I was 5. You're 40. Maybe we should update it. Maybe we should get new tools. There's a shift in the mindset. There's a shift in the decisions that have been made. Jupiter rules your third house of communication, but Jupiter also rules your sixth house of health and routine, how you care for yourself, how you care for other people. Where is Jupiter? In your 8th house. Death, debt, taxes, other people's money, shared assets, shared resources. The other half, the bottom half. Sex, the BDSM, the kinky kind, the secret kind, affairs in the 8th house, things that we don't easily share, this hush stuff behind the doors. And I want to get real clear with you Libra risings right now. Right now. When you have Venus retrograde in the 11th, making squares to things in your 8th, Libra risings are the most tempted for an affair in the next few months. The most. Is it all? No. But it is the most. Because we're going to get bored with what's going on. We're getting finished with certain aspects of the mundane. And we're needing something new. Some of us, we need to transform ourselves. Some of us are looking at where we're going in the future and we're just not okay with how things have been going currently. We're getting very, how did I say it the other day? Indifferent, fatigued, frustrated, annoyed. Our energy in the way that we've been seeing a certain aspect or a certain person or a certain obligation is changing. And I feel like for a lot of Libra risings, the mundane aspect of sometime around this full moon is we could just want to make a little day trip to another town. Like, I want to go to Oklahoma City and I'm going to go to some type of like event of some sort. I just want to just take a trip, just like a short little weekend, and that'll be good. However, the other side of that is that we need to lean into somebody. We need to lean in to a brother, a sister, lean into somebody that is connected from our childhood, that cousin that you've known your whole life that feels like your brother, but obviously he's not. And you lean into them. You're just like, can we just talk? I just need someone to talk to. And we're starting to feel our minds shifting. We're starting to feel our minds shifting because the last 2 months for Libra risings hasn't been a whole lot of energy for you guys. It's been a lot of energy of dealing with everybody else's shit and everybody else's drama and everybody else that needs to work on something. And the thing is, we're sick of waiting. Libra risings, you guys have been waiting. We go through the eclipses. If you go back and watch those moon cycles from April and May, I told a lot of you guys, I'm like, this is like, yes, I know it's a full moon in your first house, but you're literally not a part of it. Like you're waiting on somebody else. You're waiting on something to come to the surface. You've been waiting on a secret. You've been waiting on something else to come through. You've been waiting, and you get tired of waiting. And after a while, you get really, really bored. You're becoming very indifferent to everybody else, whether it is that one particular person, so your partner, your husband, wife, girlfriend, whatever you want to call them, your significant other, your business partner, something going on at work, one of your coworkers that you lean into a lot. You know, we all have that work wife and work husband at least once in our life. At least once we have it. And we're starting to see, like, if you're going to leave, like, I literally don't want to be here anymore. If you're going to leave the company, then I don't want to stay in the company. If we're going to continue to work this way, then I don't want to stay in this situation. And we feel something coming through, coming into the full moon, and definitely in the days after, that really puts something in perspective that we need to shift our mindset. And we need to refocus on what's important. Now, the thing is, Venus, your chart ruler, is going to immediately then go into your 11th house of friends, where she will be for 4 months and 4 days. And to hit that opposition to Jupiter. And what you can see all of a sudden is that one particular decision is immediately going to impact another area of your life. Something with your children, something with a loved one. You're going to suddenly see that your luck in one area has run out. Not because you've done something wrong. It's because something with other people has put in perspective that you don't fit here anymore. So we have to make a change, and we start to see that change. Some of you are going to see that other people have already left the company, new people are coming in, and as new people are coming in and it starts to shift the entire environment around you, you're just like, well, I don't even like this anymore. And we have a shift in the way that we think about things, and we need to have a shift in the communication. And some of us are just going to need to adjust. Some of us are going to have an adjustment and a shift based off of travel or vehicles. Third house full moons can also result in having to buy a new car. And that is a very mundane way to look at it, considering Mercury, travel, logistics, and all that, is in your 8th house. That new car could require a loan. Maybe you have to work on a car, and the repairs are so high in value that you have to take out a line of credit. Those are mundane things. I don't necessarily feel like those are going to be the things that tear up or play into the full spectrum of the next 6 to 8 months, unless the next 6 to 8 months you struggle with making those payments. I don't necessarily think that's going to be the case, because the South Node is leaving your 2nd house of money. Leaving. So that means we're going to start to have a whole new set of adjustments and shifts regarding who you are as a person, regarding your identity, and regarding all the things you want in the future. There is a shift in your mindset. Okay. For Scorpio and Scorpio risings, this is a 2nd house full moon. 2nd house of money, 2nd house of assets. Where is Jupiter? In your 7th house of relationships, of partnerships, of other people. If you are in business for yourself, like me, Jupiter in your 7th house means you're getting a good amount of clients coming through. And those clients that are coming through are going to impact your pocketbook. If you've been doing the work, this is a positive thing. Now, what else does Jupiter rule? Jupiter rules your 5th house: love, romance, joy, happiness, children. Some of you are starting to feel very, very drawn to one area, or you feel like something falling into place in this one area. Jupiter ruling that 5th house, that's where Saturn is. It's time for something in this area. It's time for children. It's time for a shift around children. I've also seen Saturn in the 5th result in, hysterectomies or the snip snip. Guy, girl, you know, we can do the snip snip, we can do the hysterectomy, depending on your age and where that's at. For others, especially if you're younger, you just suddenly feel like it's time to have a baby. It's time to be in love, and it's time to be happy. But for you to have a baby, at least, you need another person. You need another person. And there is a shift in regards to relationships, in regards to partnerships, in regards to love and happiness and joy. This is a full moon again in your 2nd house of money. Money, assets, values, ethics. Venus is going to be doing a retrograde in your 10th house of career. Money and ethics is going to feed into that. So we're sliding something into place. For many Scorpio risings, what's coming up over the next few months is going to drastically impact your idea of career, or your ideas for where you want to be in the future, where you want to be in regards to your public image. And that is going to mean a shift in your message, a shift in your communication, a shift in how things are going to progress moving forward. And some of those shifts aren't all yours. Some of those shifts have to do with the dynamic of other people. It has to do with the fact that something that you were working on 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, that the environment wasn't right. The community wasn't right. It wasn't ready. The technology hadn't caught up. The cost hadn't quite jived out, and we've needed to make an adjustment. We've needed to make a change. Now we're seeing something finally start to make sense and finally start to fall into place. This is a full moon in your 2nd house of money. There can be a very big shift, both positively or negatively. It again comes down to your personal karma and where you're at right now. But there's a very big shift in regards to your finances that are going to come through over these next 6 months. How you make money, how you spend money, where you feel like your money should be going. And all of those are being impacted because of another, whether that's one particular person. Jupiter in your 7th tells me that it's more than one, that it's very much going to be multiple people. And I'm not meaning like multiple partners. I'm meaning like people that you respect, people that you take obligations to, your clients, partnerships. That can be business as well as another. So just be very clear about this. We're making shifts into a very different idea of the future, our future prosperity, and our future wealth. And a lot of these shifts are required based off of a connection to another or others in general. This is actually a really beneficial full moon for Scorpio risings. Okay. For Sagittarius and Sagittarius risings, this is a full moon in your 1st house. What does Jupiter rule? You, baby. You. And you got some work to do. You have some things that need to be put into perspective. You have some very critical, grounded, necessary growth that it needs to happen. That is because Jupiter is in your 6th house. How you care for yourself, how you care for other people, parts of your daily routine, and what's necessary in your daily hustle to do well. There's a lot of tests to your faith right now. The faith that you have in other people, the faith that you have in God and Creator or the universe, or whatever verbiage you use. There is tests for your Sagittarius risings right now. The energy that follows this full moon is going to take you very slowly, out of a dark phase that you have been in for a while. Certain reservations of fear, fears of the past, certain frustrations, we're going to be able to start to overcome them following this full moon. A full moon in your first house is kind of a level up. In a lot of ways, it's like shifting something in your body, shifting something in your ego, shifting something moving into the future. Now, I have to be very clear about this. Your chart ruler is in your 6th house. I want my Sagittarius risings to be very, very well aware of your intestinal health and your reproductive health. Why? Venus rules your 6th house, and Venus has ties to your reproductive health. She has ties to your kidneys. Jupiter rules the liver, and it rules your hips and your sciatic, and rules a couple other things. It rules areas in this cake area, right alongside with Venus, just different parts. Rules areas that go into your back and your intestines, just different parts. For some Sagittarius risings, if you guys have been going through the ringer in the test phase and you have felt like everything has been falling apart and every shadow hidden energy tied to a partner or tied to your past, something like that has been coming back through, now it is time to start to restore parts of who you are, parts of your internal strength, parts of your identity, and take new steps forward, new trajectory steps forward. The new you needs to start coming through over this next month following this full moon. New, babies, new. Now, not only is this going to be a new you, but it's also going to mean new for your family. Why? Because Jupiter also rules your 4th house of home life, and family. Saturn going into your 4th is putting a lot of pressure in this area. Some of you are realizing that the home life that you thought you had, because Neptune and all of its delusional energy, is now getting a real big shock to the system. Because Saturn is in Pisces. And Saturn is saying, hey, delusions don't work. Feel my strength, feel my tenacity, feel my weight. And some of the things that have occurred over the recent months, notice I said months, have not just been one single event. It has put pressure in a whole set of areas. Some of you are watching the weight of Saturn making an actual pressure to your home and your home life and your family. Some of you are seeing Saturn in the 4th and seeing literally a pressure change in the matrons of your family, specifically the matrons. And you're seeing health issues coming through, so that Jupiter in your 6th might not be your health issues. It might be you seeing how you need to care for somebody else. And if you really take these lessons to heart, it'll also make you see certain aspects of your own health differently and how you need to care for yourself. There is a care aspect here. There is work that needs to be done. And it's not 1 month worth of work and not 1 week and not, it is an entire year of work at minimum. Slow baby steps. You're not getting everything all at once. And a lot of this is going to be meant to help you restore your faith. Faith in the medical system, faith in reality, faith in God, faith. There is a restoration in faith. Okay. Oh, my loves. For Capricorns and Capricorn risings, babies. This is a full moon in your 12th house. The unknown, the unseen, endings, things going on behind your back. Many of my Capricorn risings, babes, I got to tell you, it doesn't matter what part of the moon in Sagittarius that we're going through. I feel like anywhere between last night when the moon hit that opposition to Jupiter, going into when the moon goes into Capricorn, for you guys, I feel like it's very specific. You have had some type of news, some type of information, some type of situation brought to the forefront that you were not expecting. Why? Because this is a full moon in your 12th house. The unknown, the unseen, endings, drama, karma, things from the past. It can also be spiritual. And considering your chart ruler is in the other Jupiterian sign, it is in that third house of communications, we are also realizing that one way of doing things, one way of handling things, one way of how we connect to certain people needs to change. Our attitude needs to change. Our way of communicating things needs to change. And where is that change going to benefit us the most? In the 5th house. When it comes to love, when it comes to luck, when it comes to romance, when it comes to happiness, when it comes to joy, when it comes to your children, when it comes to your hypothetical children, if they're not here yet. But for you, many of you are going to have something come through around this full moon that is unexpected. Some of those are going to be because a friend is letting you know something, a colleague, somebody that is a part of your surroundings. They're giving you perspective of another person, of another situation. For some of you, that other person is going to be tired of waiting on you to make the call that I've been saying since March that y'all need to make. Whoever needed to make said call. Instead, you're going to find yourself in an unknown area, an unexpected area, and connect with somebody new. Romantic connections, hopeful connections, something that's very, very restorative. And for some of you, it's going to be very, very transformational because that Venus retrograde is going to be in your 8th house. Now, I want to be really clear with you, Capricorn risings, especially because I know how y'all with money. If you feel like all the money is walking out the door, then the Venus retrograde in your 8th house is going to help restore that. If really more of your energy has been more about trying to line certain things out in another area, because Jupiter has been in your 4th house of home, life, and family, and we put more projects or more emphasis into doing things at home. Some of you were actually literally sitting at home for bigger parts of that Mars retrograde because you were going through some health issues. But there has been a shift in home life, a shift in family that is going to lead to something benefiting more than just yourself. You might not even realize the benefits coming. This is a 12th house energy. But I feel like specifically for Capricorn risings, there's something that needs to end that breaks through a fog that you guys haven't been able to deal with before, you guys haven't been able to address. That fog is most likely around a very specific event or a specific person or a very specific situation that is probably from last year. Whether that's last summer or last spring, last year. A lot of you guys, it's having to do with last year and something coming back around, coming full circle. Something very unexpected, something that you need to get perspective on. And it's going to lead to a very shocking situation immediately following. Okay. For Aquarius and Aquarius rising, this is a full moon in your 11th house. Friends, network, colleagues, people that you do business with, your clients, any level of networking. And what else does Jupiter rule? Your 2nd house of money, your assets, your stuff, your values, your ethics, your valuables, how you make money, how you spend money. 2nd house. Where is Jupiter for you guys? In that 4th house of home, life, and family. This is a hellacious transit, by the way, for like family reunions. I'm just saying, like, this is like a great transit for family reunions. We're feeling something fall into place. A project that we've been working on in regards to our family, in regards to our home life. If we've made a move, but we had to move into a temporary lodging, now we're going to start to look for more permanent, long-term lodging that's going to give everybody a new set of like roots and ancestry that we haven't had in a long time. Some of you are going to start to feel the real shift with how you connect with certain clients and how it's impacting your pocketbook. And part of this is going to be negative, part of this is going to be positive. Some of you, you're going to realize that you've made certain connections and you made certain commitments, and certain parts of it couldn't pan out for one reason or another. And it's put you into a place of fear for some of you. For others, you're in a very big place of power and in empowerment. And we're seeing the big picture of a full moon in the 11th, seeing things really line out for your clients. And where does that benefit? It benefits your pocketbook and it benefits your family. It benefits your home life. We're seeing a shift. Now, if we've had some very temporary, so to speak, temporary connections in regards to clients that didn't pan out, after the full moon, I feel like you're going to see some things kind of pan out. If it's not that, if you start to really see the decline afterwards, then what the universe is showing you is that some of the relationships, some of the connections, and some of the recent decisions weren't actually right. That they might have been a part of the temporary energy that we weren't quite fully sold on, and now we're seeing the light from that. We're seeing just how much it's impacted our partnership, whether that's romantic or another. It can be affecting certain legal aspects. We're having to deal with contract matters. We're having to deal with literal legal matters right now. Some of us are starting to see certain aspects of career dissolve. Hear me out. South Node has been in your 10th for a while. Some aspects of your career, some aspects of your public image dissolve. And it furthers the change in how you connect with your clients and how you are connecting with certain people. If you have worked in one particular industry, in one particular company for a very long time, but now you've made a transition to a new company, some of us tend to have very loyal clients. And the thing is like, we don't even have to try. The client's not loyal to the company that was doing their insurance, or, they're not loyal to that location that was always doing their nails or doing their hair for my hairdressers. No, they're loyal to that person. So they will follow the person. So what do you have to do? I don't work at this salon anymore. I work at this salon. So moving forward, you're going to have to book over here if you want to work with me. If you don't want to work with me, that's fine. But most people be like, no, I don't need anyone else touching my hair. You already know how it goes. You already know how I like it. No. And we see the follow. We see the shift and we see that change. And that allows for you to overcome certain fears tied to your money, tied to your assets. Some of you are also going to see certain benefits that really start to come through in regards to what you're wanting for your family and for your home life. And for some Aquarius rising, some of you are about to see a growth in your family. You're going to see that very first step of having a family, having a kid, becoming a mother, seeing somebody become a mother. And what can happen following this full moon, especially with that Mercury-Uranus conjunction, can be literally somebody excitingly expressing, I'm pregnant. It's a hell of an announcement. And there's going to be some Aquarius risings that run into that. Okay. For Pisces and Pisces rising, this is a full moon in your 10th house, your career, your public image, where you're going into the future, what your hopes and dreams are, what your plans are for the future. What does Jupiter also rule? You, baby, you. Because Jupiter is one of your chart rulers, because you got two. Where's Neptune? In the first. Where's Jupiter? In your third. Many Pisces risings are starting to see a change in their surrounding connections, a change in the tribe. We're seeing new light whenever it comes to connections with family, whenever it comes to how you need to care for yourself, how you need to care for other people. Many of you are starting to see a very different dynamic in regards to the future. Now, some of that dynamic has to do with career. For some of you, that is taking relationships to the next level. For some of you, you are starting to level up. You are starting to grow, and you are starting to change, and you are starting to really come into your own. Saturn in your first places a lot of pressure here. Now, I've seen some Pisces risings with Saturn in the first. You guys have been like completely absorbed by Saturn's energy, and you are being the tyrant, and you are being the one that growls, and you are being the ones like, you are going to do as I say. No, I'm not. And no, they ain't. And what you need to realize is that you need to have a shift in your mindset, because Jupiter, one of your chart rulers, is in that third house. You need to have a shift in the way that you're communicating. You're needing to take a shift in how you are working through certain things and how you're dealing with certain things. Some of you need to make a shift in how you're connecting with your siblings, how you're connecting with your family members, how you're connecting and communicating certain things with other people. And there's going to be a very shocking hit to the system in the days following this full moon. And many of you are going to either have to step up into that new role and rise to the occasion of that new level, or some of you are going to see just how much you have leveled up already, and it's going to really impact the way you see yourself into the future. If you've done some of the work, and if you've been dealing with the issues going between Saturn now in your first and Pluto in your 12th, some of you have recently just like you've seen somebody else's true colors, and it's just like, oh no, I don't need this anymore. I don't need this energy. I don't need this drama. I don't need this crap. Some of you are going to really start to understand that the only way that you can really harness just how much power Saturn can be in your first house, and I'm saying this as I have my natal Saturn in my first house, so I understand. Like, I am the adultier adult in every situation. Baby, Saturn in your first house is about to make you the adultier adult in every situation. But it's also going to do it on a very spiritual level because you have Neptune there. One part of who you are is dissolving and fading away, and a new, more empowered, strengthened part is coming through. And the message is going to also start to come through. Your message, your way of doing things, your way of handling things, your perspective. Some of you, that perspective is going to be helping other people deal with the pressure. Some of you are going to feel so much pressure that you have no choice but to finally say, I need help. Some of you are feeling nothing but the need to take responsibility. And that's not an easy thing whenever it comes to Pisces people. A lot of Pisces, don't put me in charge. And I'm a Pisces moon and a Gemini sun. And I have said this so many times in the past, like, look, I don't want to be in charge of the shit show. However, if you give me the tasks, I will totally help. But in these regards, I don't want to be in charge of the shit show. Put me in charge of other things later on, but not this particular shit show. Some Pisces placements, they don't ever want to be in charge of the shit show. They just want to be the spectator. And the thing is, Saturn is going to say, nope. Guess what, baby? We are in the arena. Come on. There is a shift in the way that you are thinking. There's a shift in your communication. In the most mundane level, there can be a big shift in regards to career. And if you are in communications, and that's like, this really pans out. But if you're not in communications, or you're not in like tech in any way, then this is going to be something completely different. Some of you are going to have a shift in the way that you are dealing with a sibling, or multiple siblings, or family members. Some of you are having to deal with a shift in your family and the impacts that it's doing to your children. If it's not your children directly, because we are talking about some family stuff and sibling stuff, then it could be the nieces and nephews and somebody else's children, specifically siblings' children. There can be an adjustment in this area, and you might just be seeing the very beginning stages of it, not knowing where everything's going to go into the future, but it is going there. And you have a lot of lessons that are coming through over these next 4 to 5 months. A lot of adjustments in how you care for yourself, a lot of like scrutiny in the decisions you've made and how you care for other people, how you care for your children, how you've cared for certain family members. Some of you are really going to go through some scrutiny. Some of you are not necessarily going to go through scrutiny. It's going to be more along the lines of, why did you do it this way? Who thought this was a good idea? What were you thinking? Well, I don't know. I did that 3 years ago. I wasn't thinking. I've slept since then. That doesn't mean the questions aren't going to come. That doesn't mean the situation isn't still going to happen. It is. In a lot of ways, it is. But there will be a lot of things that lead to stuff later this year that are going to start following this full moon, and it's going to deeply impact your future, where you're going for the future, what your goals are for the future, where you're going in career. What are you dealing with fathers? This can also have to do with that. A full moon in the 10th house can have to do with very masculine energies coming and shifting. How you see yourself as a father, how you connect with your father, how you and your siblings can connect with your father and other male figures in your family. There can be a dynamic shift here as well. Okay. Now, the extra layer. So I'm going to stop sharing the screen. I'm going to do one more part before I close this out. And that is, I want to talk about Jupiter. I keep grabbing my pencil. I'm not a smoker, but I like having things in my hand for some reason. Anyways. Okay. Depending on what house your natal Jupiter is in, this adds an additional layer. And considering there's 12 houses, 12 zodiac signs, and I've already gone through all 12 of them, I was not going to do all 12 placements per zodiac sign because that would make this a 5-hour video, and I'm not doing that. So take what was just discussed based off of your ascendant, aka your rising sign, or your sun sign if you listen to your sun sign. If you are a nighttime chart, some of you might be listening to your moon sign, and that's incredible. That's great. However, I'm not getting into all that part. I want to just get into wherever the placement of your natal Jupiter is for this next part, because I want you to take this information and add it to there. So I will use myself as an example, but I'm only going to use this as one example. I'm not going to give you like 50. I just went to powwow. I was very clear about that. I went to powwow and I spent a lot of time with family. If you know anything about me, there's been certain members of my family that for a long time I did not have access to. I did not have connections with. It was not by my choice. It was based off of like choices that were completely outside of me. And, people had to grow into realizing you are not your parents. There you go. So this year is the very first year that when I went to powwow, I didn't feel like a fish out of water. I actually felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. I belonged exactly where I was. And I was so grateful for that. It was amazing in a lot of different ways. It was very great for my heart. But my natal Jupiter is in my 4th house of home life, and family. Jupiter was making a conjunction to the North Node in my 7th house of other people and obligations and partnerships. I have seen since Jupiter has went into Taurus, especially since Taurus, but really since the start of eclipse season in April, Jupiter was very much still in Aries, but I have started to see that my consistency of doing this has started to grow beyond just what I wanted it to, and not even, what I'm really starting to see is even my family is coming around to what I do. even my family is starting to understand that sometimes modern tools are necessary with traditional tools. And that's not an easy thing for elders to come full circle with, by the way. But there is a transition. And parts of where things are going right now, I can see very much is going to be including my new age tools of astrology and other paths that I have followed and other things that I have learned over the years is going to be intertwined in a lot of ways into aspects within the tribe, into aspects within my roots and within my ancestry and the way that I do associate with my ancestors, because I do honor my ancestors, and you guys have heard me say that before. But that is also now leading into connections with other people because Jupiter is in my 7th. This is the dynamic I want you guys to take a look at. For some of you, you've already been seeing the effects of Jupiter in Taurus for you. You've already been seeing this for a few weeks. And as Jupiter's been getting closer to the North Node, we're seeing the other dynamic of Jupiter there and what it represents. So what does Jupiter do in your natal chart? What house is it in? Not what zodiac sign, the numerical house. Not doing the zodiac sign thing. That's what the rising and the ascendant part was for, and we talked about what Jupiter ruled. Now we're talking about the placement of your natal Jupiter. For some of you, Jupiter is going to be in your 1st house. Here we go. Your mind, your body, your ego, your identity, the things that you start your attitude about life. If your natal Jupiter is in your 1st house and you are starting to feel very magnetic pulls towards ego, towards frustrations, towards questioning who you are as a person, or questioning how things are going to go, or questioning your health, because it is the 1st house and your body is definitely going to be tied to your health, then Jupiter's conjunction to the North Node can be very much putting things about who you are as a person into the front of your mind. And I want you to add that layer to whatever I just talked about with your ascendant or your rising sign. Okay. If Jupiter rules if Jupiter is located in your 2nd house of money, I have said this a couple of times. Jupiter's conjunction to the North Node for some people is literally feeling like all of their money, all of their assets, and all of the things that they hold dear to them, their valuables, their values, are being questioned or being drained. They're being consumed. Everything's just falling. Like, where did it all go? What do you mean I spent $5,000 last month? I didn't even buy anything. That's because things were going wrong and things were breaking. So literally your assets were breaking. And now you're seeing yourself having to put out money again and again and again towards certain things. And some of these were very unplanned. We never planned to replace an appliance in the house. That is for sure. Usually, if we're replacing an appliance, it's because it just failed. It just went wrong. And we're having to put the money together and move something over and get it installed and everything else. And sometimes you have to deal with, like, the new stuff doesn't fit into the old place. So then you have to do other work, and it can be a whole mess. But if you have the same event of, like, the car broke down, an appliance broke in the house, suddenly there's vet bills, something else wrong. And you're seeing the of things just going wrong and everything draining. That's going to be a headache. But for some of you, it's not the drain. It is things manifesting and falling into place and finally coming together. And it's buying the lucky scratch off lottery ticket, and you bought 10 of them, but 5 are winners. And it's finally feeling like something is falling into place. It's getting that raise that you've been promised for over a year. And not only do you get the raise, but you get like a bonus for being so patient. It's having money fall into place. It's inheriting certain things. You've probably known you're inheriting it for a while, but now suddenly realizing this is my crap and I don't even have a place big enough for all this stuff. I'm going to need a storage unit. I'm going to need to do a garage sale. Some of it's going to be that mundane. We're just feeling a collection of stuff coming through, lots of things coming through, or lots of things being consumed. if Jupiter is located in your natal second house. Okay. Third house. Short distance travel, communication, early education, things with your siblings, wanting to talk with them, wanting to reach out to certain people, wanting to have certain conversations, dealing with the neighbors, very third house stuff too, by the way, because it's right next to home, but they're the neighbors, so they're right next to home. So you could be doing more stuff in your neighborhood, doing more stuff with your neighbors. You could be feeling drawn to help a neighbor or help a sibling, or being drawn to really focus on learning something new because you're realizing what you've known from your childhood isn't correct. And most of the time, the thing that we have to like unlearn and relearn is usually about political correctness, more often than not. Political correctness. And if you've had one term of sayings, I've got a great, this is a very old example, it was a great one. My uncle had a bad habit of calling everybody boy. Don't get pulled over by a black officer and say the word boy. You will get extra tickets that you don't need. He did multiple times. But it was just his natural, like, boy. It's just an old country guy. You know, they never said it with girl. It was always boy. And the thing is like, if you have that way of thinking and you slip up with that type of communication and you have that kind of stuff come out, what you can find is that you are really getting put into perspective that that verbiage, that way of thinking, that way of doing things, baby, it ain't right. We don't need to say that. You need to be more respectful. That might look like a guy in front of you, but they might have pronouns. Yes, pronouns are a thing. Okay, Grandpa? Okay, Uncle? In this case, it was my uncle. That's why I'm saying it that way. Some of you might also be very, very drawn to a vehicle. This is a very mundane way of looking at it. Like, I super, super want this kind of car. I really want that Rubicon with the Hemi engine, like the sports car, the Lamborghini. I'm not a big car person, but I can talk to you about Jeeps and motorcycles all day long. So like the Raptor, or we're wanting the Dodge Challenger, like we're just drawn, like I want a Hellcat so bad. If you are feeling drawn towards this, given all the other financial stuff, I hope you're not running out and just buying a Hellcat with a Hemi engine, all that. Please don't do that. Wait it out. Just hear me out and wait it out. Please don't do this. If after some of the transits kind of die down and you're still drawn to that, I get it. If not, then let the energy fade. Let that fade away. And that should fade away mid-June. So we got like 2 more weeks before that full-on energy fades away, just to be clear. Okay. If your natal Jupiter is in your 4th house of home, life, and family, you guys already heard this example, you are going to feel very drawn towards home and home life. Finishing things in the house, finishing projects in the house. It's going to be a focus on maternal figures, whether that's you becoming a mother, having to deal with the matrons of your family, and I say matrons, by the way, I say matrons because sometimes the women living at home is not just one. There are multi-generational houses and multi-generational families that live in one house. So you might get told by auntie, mom, and grandma all at the same table. And this is why I say matrons. Because it's still your home life and it's still your family. So maternal, feminine energies with family, whenever it comes to 4th house stuff. Some of you might really feel the skeletons in the closet coming back full circle. Because where are our closets? At home. What a lot of families have? secrets and skeletons in the closet. You can have family secrets starting to come through. People suddenly feeling the urge to, I am sick of this. I want to tell my story. I want to tell everybody. And it's going to have bigger impacts than just getting that moment off your chest. It's going to have a bigger moment. It's going to impact other areas, and it's going to impact these other people. And whatever you feel drawn to just shout out at the world right now, well, you don't know the ripple effect it's going to have. Some of you are feeling like you're having family just fall away from you. That they're getting so consumed by the energy in front of them that they're losing faith and they're losing sight and they're losing aspects around family. And it's great to see somebody follow their dreams, and it's great to see somebody take leaps forward. But we also realize that means something is not being done the same way. And it's going to mean adjusting home life and adjusting family and adjusting this area of our life. Okay. If your natal Jupiter is in your 5th house, love, luck, romance, happiness, joy, children, behaviors from your childhood. That would be the mental stuff. Some of us are feeling so lucky. Like everything is just falling into place and everything is just feeling so good and everything is going to be doing so well. And so many people can get a goldfish mentality, and that is, if it's going great now, that means it's going to be going great forever. And I hate this because I feel like I've always seen this pattern, especially with people that work in like the finance markets. Like they don't always forecast the ups and downs of things appropriately. They're just like, yeah, it's just going to keep increasing and going up forever. No, baby, that is called a bubble, and bubbles burst. Don't let your bubble burst. Some of you, you're kind of feeling like your bubble's bursting. You're feeling like so many things are starting to hit other areas, and it's just like, I don't have enough time for this. I don't have enough patience for this. For some of you, it's like feeling like the drama just will not stop, because there can be drama to the 5th house also. Some of you can be very, very drawn to try a substance. Now, hear me out on this one. There can be a substance element to the 5th house, but it's not directly seen. That substance element is because sometimes we like to drink to have a good time. Sometimes we want to have a good time. And the thing is like, sometimes we can become very consumed by wanting to have a good time. And we can start to feel the urge to take additional drinks, to try more than just this. And it can lead to very dark areas. And I hope that is not the case. However, if you are seeing this in yourself, if you are seeing this within another person, understand that they are being swept up by the energy and very much probably need assistance. They are not going to like assistance because there's going to be a bit of an ego thing there. And nobody likes whenever there's a negative Nancy at the party. He's like, you're just trying to ruin my good time. No, I'm trying to keep you out of jail. Trying to keep your money in your bank account. I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to protect you. I'm trying to do anything but ruin your good time. Figure it out. Okay. If your natal Jupiter is in your 6th house, how you care for yourself, your health, your routine, your fitness routine, your daily routine. If every single day you have to, one of my routines, I have to go to my chiropractor at least once a week. Sometimes it's twice a week. It really depends on my hips. And I gotta admit, since Jupiter's been out of Aries, my sciatic nerve pain has gone down quite a bit. And for the last month, I've been able to get away with one visit a week. Actually, one week I got to skip the whole week. So that was nice. how we care for ourselves, parts of our routine, that routine aspect of you always go to the chiropractor. In my case, it's chiropractor. So for a while I was going twice a week. So I would try to go like Mondays and Thursdays. That would be kind of my time span. Sometimes I'd go in on Sunday, but usually it's like Monday and Thursday. Here was my days. This was my routine. And if I miss one of my days, my chiropractor is also one of my clients. Oh, I heard about it. Monday was 3 days ago. I didn't get my forecast for the week. You didn't tell me how crazy some of these people were going to be this week. Like, my bad. How you do parts of your routine. What you do in routine. What is the analyzed area of your life? Where does your analytical nature take over? Is it on doing something in regards to prosperity, in regards to wealth? Does our analytical nature come through as like how we want to build something? Some of us, it's not an analytical nature because we're talking about Jupiter. It can be a spiritual part of us really coming through and taking shape. And we're realizing how much we need to add spiritual aspects to our routine. Yoga on a daily basis. I do that. Meditation on a daily basis. I definitely do that. Like, what are you doing in your garden? What are you doing outside? How are you watering the garden that is your body, that is your mind, that is your health, that is a part of your routine? How are you watering this garden before you try to do something for other people? Who needs to be taken care of? Where are you seeing adjustments and changes in that regard? Where are you seeing where things need to level up in that regard? Do you need to take new steps in your routine, whether that is in a mental, analytical nature, or whether that's in a spiritual nature, or in some level in the middle? We need to make an adjustment. If your natal Jupiter is in your 6th house and you are having issues with your intestinal health, take your ass to the doctor. That's not a joke. If you are feeling something wrong in your intestinal health, in your lymphatic health, in your feet, or sciatic to hips, like the hips don't stay in place. That's my issue all the time. But I'm using it as an example here. Like all of a sudden you're like, I don't know why, but I feel like I'm doing this stuff when I'm walking. Go to the chiropractor. I got a good one. You in Oklahoma? I got a good one. If not, do what's necessary to strengthen this area of your health. If you feel like parts of your health is being consumed, then do what's necessary to strengthen this area and to build it back up and to take it back to a normal, stable level. The North Node in Jupiter's energy is only going to last for a couple more weeks. Okay. I got so used to moving the screen. I'm so sorry. All right. If your natal Jupiter is in your 7th house, relationships, partnerships, contracts, obligations, anything with another person. Some of you may be feeling very, very drawn towards a commitment, towards a person, towards a partnership, towards an idea, a hope, a philosophy. And if you're being drawn towards something, dot your I's, cross your T's, cover your ass, because we don't have the full picture yet. There's going to be things that come through later on. And remember, we're in the middle of transition and tests. At everything that we're weaving, we have to test the strength of the basket. And we're weaving new things in after this full moon. If you are weaving in another person, do the background check, do your due diligence. CYA mentality, especially if you don't know the other person. If you do know them, but you haven't really done anything with them for X amount of years, do your due diligence, okay? Pull the court records. Do the things that are necessary to protect you, your business, your life, your family, your prosperity, whatever you need to, put those safeguards in place. Some of you, you're feeling drawn to the situation and it's not even an effort. You've waited for it for so long, you've known that it was coming, and now all of a sudden it's just like the stars are aligning and everything's falling into place. And that's wonderful. And again, I'm going to say, just do your due diligence. It's going to be the most promising thing in the world. But fool's gold fools a lot of people. So again, I'm not discarding the idea that a good partnership is there, whether it's a romantic partnership, a business partnership. Fool's gold fools a lot of people. There's nothing wrong with being safe. Most of you would rather be safe than sorry later on. I'm telling you, just be safe. Okay. If your natal Jupiter is in your 8th house. Now, the thing with the 8th house is there's the topical layer, and then there's the underbelly. The 8th house is usually associated with Scorpio, which is a very fixed sign, but there's a duality even to the fixed area. So, let's talk about the upper layer. Death, debt, taxes, inheritance, shared assets, shared finances, money that is related or tied to other people in some way, shape, or form. Some of you are feeling very, very drawn to invest certain money. Keep your ass out of cryptocurrency right now, because that shit's been going to hell for over a year. And I got the documentation to prove it. Ball. It's crazy. Some of us are feeling like we need to move our investments into something safer. Some of us are looking at the idea that we want to invest in something that is going to have more value long term. So I've seen a lot of people switching from like stock investments to commodities and to it's not gold and silver. So precious metals. Gold, silver, copper, actually. Copper's been getting really high again. There's reasons why, but copper can also be a part of that. But they're going from risky stocks to putting them into safer, tangible goods, commodities, and that's what the precious silvers. There can be other things that fall into that area too. Some of you are feeling like tax debt is overwhelming, or you're feeling like an inheritance it is starting to run out or run dry, or it's the other way around. We're feeling like we can finally take care of it. I can finally pay all these taxes. I'm so excited. I'm finally paying off this debt. I ain't gonna have no more student loans. I ain't gonna have no more cars, whatever the loan might be on. Buy credit cards. And the other part of it can be like, I feel like I need to start to share my responsibility with this person. And it's putting those accounts together. And it's starting to bring certain things together. And this is that shared aspect of it. And that doesn't have to be a negative. Again, due diligence. I said this with the 7th house stuff. I'm saying it again now. Do your due diligence, but it can be a very big part of it. Now the underbelly of that. The thing about money is we don't easily talk about it. And if you're not willing to talk about it, then another way to say that is it's a secret. You can be feeling compelled to rid yourself of a secret. You could be feeling very, very overwhelmed by a secret that you've been holding on to, and you're starting to feel like it's going to break. You can be very compelled to become very sexually adventurous right now, because there is the sex aspect of the 8th house, but it's more the BDSM kind. Again, safe words, that kind of thing. The kinky stuff, the stuff that we don't easily share. It's like, what do you mean you want to put a sex dungeon into the basement? What? That can be a part of the topic. Very compelled to do something in the more adventurous aspect of that. There can also be affairs. Some of us, and secret sex is not kinky BDSM. It is affairs. It's the stuff that we don't want to be known. And our affairs can suddenly come to the surface. Our secrets can suddenly come to the surface. There's been evidence of that in the news. Lies can come to the surface. Things that we don't easily share. If you are feeling the need to tell a secret, don't be surprised by that. that energy can kind of fade away, but that doesn't mean that it won't burst out of your mouth in the meantime. And I feel like the most likely it's going to occur is whenever Venus makes that square to Jupiter. If some of you are just feeling like super kinky, then when Venus makes that square to Jupiter, there's going to be some stuff in the bedroom. Just saying. Okay. 9th house. If your natal Jupiter is in your 9th house, Jupiter does very well in the 9th house. The 9th house is traditionally associated with Sagittarius, and that's one of Jupiter's signs. Higher knowledge, higher learning, philosophy, education, religion. I'm not talking about spirituality. I said religion. Church, institutions. What else do I have? Higher education, learning through experience. I always say learning through experience because not every 9th house transit are you stuck in a classroom. Sometimes the things that you're learning are in the moment. You're experiencing something for the first time and you're just like, a whole different avenues, a whole different perspective. Like, what just happened? If your natal Jupiter is in your 9th house, you could be suddenly very compelled to travel, long distance travel. You're suddenly feeling very compelled. I'm like, I just want to go to Spain. I want to go on a cruise. I want to go to New York. I just want to go. And we're just feeling this compelling to move and go somewhere new and experience a whole new life. Experience life through a new zip code and area code and through a new tradition and through new cultures and through new people. And if you are magnetically feeling compelled to move, I would not be surprised. Be the adventurer. Take on that adventure energy. Some of you, it's going to be taking on new levels of learning or teaching. 9th house can be a lot of teaching. Teaching somebody else something new. Feeling compelled to expand and express your knowledge with another person. And letting them know things that they've never learned before. And literally taking on a pupil. This is all 9th house stuff. If your natal Jupiter is in this area, these are some of the things that you can be feeling. Okay? If your natal Jupiter is in the 10th, in your 10th house of career and public image, things that have to do with your father, your reputation, trying to get to areas of fame and fortune. Some of this is going to have to do with the paternal. So where before it was like the matrons, 4th house stuff. Now I'm talking about paternal. Things tied to your father's side of the family. If you're older, 10th house can also be your in-laws and the other side of your family. And you could be very compelled to agree to, okay, I will help you take care of the mother-in-law, even though she hates my guts and she tells me that all the time. Okay, she can move in. Hopefully, not everybody's mother-in-law hates their guts. Hopefully. You know, I have Mars and Cancer. If you're not a good mom, I'm going to tell you. I wonder why my mother-in-law and I didn't get along. Anyways. Some of you can be feeling very compelled to do something to have your career fall into place. Some of you can be feeling very, very hopeful that the next big break is right around the corner. The next opportunity is right. It's within fingertips reach. We know it's coming. We know it's so close. We haven't touched it yet. We haven't got it yet. And we're feeling compelled to grab onto it. The thing is, the universe is really funny with its tests, and sometimes we grab onto things that aren't meant for us. So again, unless there's like some huge time constraint, like, okay, if you don't accept this offer by Tuesday, then I'm rescinding the offer. It's not going to stick around. Unless there's a time constraint for some reason, take your time to make sure you're making the right decision, to make sure you're taking the correct steps forward with where you need to go in the future. If you're wanting to obtain a certain amount of fame, a certain amount of success, a certain level in your reputation, then there's more than just the right break. There's talent, there's integrity, there's trust, there's building good connections and building good partnerships. It's maintaining everything to have a good reputation. My integrity is not worth your ego. I've said this before. There's a story behind that sentence. And the thing is, it's exactly what some people need to hear. And if you've had some opportunities that are falling in front of you, but everything seems too good to be true, there's a chance that it is. Do your due diligence to make sure whatever opportunity is going to be good for you before you sign on the dotted line, before you sign a single piece of paper, before you agree to anything. Make sure that you do your due diligence to protect yourself, because this all-consuming hopeful energy can really come back to bite you really fast. Okay. If your natal Jupiter is in your 11th house, friends, network, clients, your humanitarianism, so the way that you donate your time whenever you go out and do things in the community, that's very 11th house stuff. If you're a realtor, Keller Williams Red Day, that is all 11th house stuff. It's totally Aquarius. And 11th house is usually tied to the 11th, to Aquarius. Technology. We can suddenly feel very compelled to learn a new technology. I have not messed with ChatGPT yet. And if you are suddenly thinking that that's something you want to deal with, you could be compelled to play with it. And then it's going to take you down the rabbit hole of like, what other AI stuff can I play with? Don't be surprised that that's kind of the energy. Don't be surprised if you really start doing deep dive stuff into that, though, that you find yourself afterwards going, maybe this is going to be dangerous if it's not handled correctly. Maybe we shouldn't have this accessible to everybody because people can't always be trusted. Like, we start to see why boundaries and rules can be very, very necessary. But in the immediate, with Jupiter's conjunction to the North Node, we can just be consumed by it. It's like suddenly every piece of art in your house, every picture you've ever taken is being redone with AI technology. And it's just like, yeah, it's going to be super fun, until it gets super annoying to everybody else. Like, if you send me one more AI selfie, I'm going to block you. The other thing about the 11th house is we can be very much drawn to making relationships or making connections to another person's children. Now, hear me out on this, especially these people that are getting into new relationships and your significant other has children. This can be more along the lines of like, if you guys are taking those next step forward and you're about to be a step parent and your stepmom or stepdad, and they have kids from a prior relationship or a prior marriage or something like that, then it could be like, okay, well, I would like to really spend some one-on-one time with little Jimmy. Let's go fishing. Let me take him to the mall. Let me take him off-roading. Let me do something with him so he and I can start to connect and bond. Oh, are you sure? Yes. You can be very, very drawn to the idea of making this level of a connection. And that's not a negative thing. If it is a negative thing, we got a whole different set of conversations to have. But wanting to make certain connections in this area and wanting to do something differently here. So this, I feel like, is most important for people that are in like brand new relationships or taking an existing relationship to the next level. And that means integrating. And there can be some integration with the North Node Jupiter if your natal Jupiter is in the 11th. Social awareness, making sure that you're doing the right thing for everybody, wanting to spend a lot more time with your friends, wanting to grow your client base. All of these things can be very much about the North Node. Some of you might be feeling like nothing is falling into place because everything's going wrong for your clients. And you're just like, am I ever going to make money again? You will. It just takes some time. And you might need, with Jupiter in the 11th, that means sometimes waiting for everybody else's shit to pan out before it can pan out for you. So there can be a bit of a waiting game to Jupiter and the North Node's energy. Okay. If your natal Jupiter is in your 12th house, solitude, feeling lost, closure, karma, getting a new perspective of age, growing into a new age, old age, finding lost things and hidden things, getting new connections in spirituality and our beliefs, finding ourselves in murky areas, uncharted territory, places we've never been before, and questioning whether we're making the right choices. Jupiter isn't terrible in the 12th house because the 12th house is generally associated with Pisces. Jupiter is the traditional ruler of Pisces. So Jupiter in your 12th doesn't necessarily have to be bad. It's more along the lines of understanding the full circle effects, the karma involved with our decisions. 12th house placements tend to understand karma better than most because you've suffered it so many times. Not just in this lifetime, but in previous lifetimes, because our natal charts, they tell us things about our previous lives also. Some of you might be really questioning your connection with another person, and your intuition is telling you not to continue doing things with somebody. And Jupiter's conjunction to the North Node is really just, it's a hit in your spine, it's hitting your neck, and you're twitch like, why did you say it that way? Why are you doing that? And we're really questioning the behavior of another person. We're really questioning our connection with them. And we might start to realize that that person who we used to see in a different light, we're now suddenly realizing we can't trust them the same. Maybe they've gotten to a new relationship and that other person is now putting a new influence onto them. And you're just like, I don't think we should continue to hang out. I don't think we can continue to vibe. I can't trust you. Some of you are realizing people that you had thought were your friends weren't your friends. In fact, in many ways, they were enemies. Were they upfront about being enemies? No, not every enemy is. That's the problem. That's why we have a 12th house. We are finding out that certain things have been getting done behind our backs. And Jupiter's conjunction to the North Node is intuitively telling you, you don't know everything. You don't have all the story. You don't have everything figured out, and you need to figure it out. And if that's the case, if your natal Jupiter is in your 12th house, you really need to look at what's going on in the rest of the chart. Like, you need to go listen to your ascendant more so probably than anybody. Because that intuition, that gut instinct, don't ever discredit it. And don't ever let somebody tell you not to listen to your intuition. Baby, your intuition is yours for a reason. And it is there to protect you. It is your instinct. So, listen to your intuition. If something doesn't seem right, if something doesn't sound right, then it probably ain't going to pass the sniff test either. It ain't going to smell right. Don't put it in your mouth. You don't want to taste that. You just don't. All right. I got a lot of things into here, and I'm looking at the time, and it's like right now it's 2 hours and 42 minutes in, and I'm just like, there's a lot. But the thing is, I understood when I was meditating going into this, and like, this full moon, for a lot of people, is going to feel like one thing. And then I think that's one of the reasons why my stuff tends to be different from other astrologers. And I'm not saying anything negative about other astrologers. I don't look at one transit and say everything's tied to that. Because the thing is 9 times out of 10, it's not. It's not. It's tied to so many more things. And understanding that bigger element and that bigger picture and the long-term effects of a decision will really put things in perspective, because sometimes you might say, oh, this is a full moon in my 5th house of luck. But if you were a Virgo rising back in 2018 and 2019, that was the South Node and Pluto and Saturn and then Jupiter, all in your 5th house of luck. None of that was fun. So it's not just about what's going on in the 5th house or what's going on in the 10th house or the 7th house. No, it's not just about that. Because all the energy continues and all the energy will continue to move forward. And there's not going to be a single time that it's just going to be like, everything's going to be sunshine and rainbows and it's going to be the greatest thing ever. Because sometimes that transit is in somebody's 12th house. I've said that to Gemini risings a couple of times now. Like, for a lot of you guys, like, there's some consequences to your actions. But for other people, it's in great places. It's in places for luck, and it's in places for money. It's in places for love and sexual adventure, or just adventure in general. Like, there's been other areas that one transit can be detrimental for one person and amazing for another. And this is why I try to state both sides. There's a reason in a yin-yang, even in the full white side, there's a little bit of black. Even in the full black side, there's a little bit of white. Because the best day, the best transit, the best energy in the world can still have a negative effect. You might not know that negative effect until weeks down the road, months down the road, years down the road. Understanding that one decision truly has a rippling butterfly effect that carries us all the way through from one to another, to another, to another. Nobody told you at the time that you picked up your first astrology book. This is an ephemeris, so I'm just going to hold on to this. If you have never seen an ephemeris, this is like an almanac for transits. So, first time you picked up an astrology book, that it was going to lead to an entire lifetime. Some people never realized the first time they picked up a deck of tarot cards that they were going to find a new tool that was going to help them get perspective and insight on so many different areas of their life and so many different decisions. The first time they touched it, the first time they shuffled it. Sometimes the first time you got onto a dating app, you didn't realize that you were going to meet your soulmate or some version of it. I'm not a big person in saying the word soulmate or twin flame, but other people are. You might meet a part of your soul tribe. You might meet somebody that, has a bigger element for you in life and not even realize just how important they are in that moment because you just went on a date. But that date leads to other things. It leads to other events. It leads to meeting new people. It leads to sharing new areas of life. It has an entire ripple effect, but it started with a swipe. It started with a run of the debit card. It started by opening a book. This full moon, this Sagittarius full moon, it is a full moon with a ripple effect. And for many of us, it's adding an additional layer into what we are already weaving into our current timeline. It's adding new information. It's adding a new decision. It's adding the next part. It's shifting a perspective. It's showing where the work is necessary. This full moon, it's not just about this full moon. And we're going to come back. Watch, I'm going to end up bringing this back up in November. I said it back then. We're coming to it now. I said it in March and I said it in June. I'm going to come full circle, be like, those decisions, those moments, those events, look where they have led you. You are in a moment of a decision, of an idea, of a magnetic pull that has a much bigger effect than you realize. I'm looking at these and I'm meditating on these transits and I don't even fully understand it yet. I don't even have the full perspective yet because some of the things that just started to come through, literally they just started to come through in the last 24 hours. That's not enough time. That was not enough time to be able to have full perspective as to where we're going. So that means the only thing that I could tell you guys at the beginning, and that's why I started this video with a disclaimer, was, hey, disclaimer, I've had so much crap come through in the last 24 hours in my meditation that I still haven't even made sense of. But the one thing that I did here and the one thing that I can put 2 and 2 to make 4 is Mars conjunctions. And that tells me that whenever we start those Mars conjunctions, they're going to have a huge effect leading into the eclipse cycle that will follow that full moon eclipse, because I grabbed a pencil again, sorry. That full moon eclipse that's happening in October, that out of sign eclipse. There's so much coming through. There's so much that's transitioning us into new versions of ourselves, into new levels, into new relationships, into new paths and new trajectory and new businesses and new lessons and new teachings. We're moving towards something very, very big. And it's not just on the individual level, it is on the collective level. And so much of it is starting in this full moon. Okay, my loves. I love and appreciate every single one of you. I am not going to let this go to 3 hours. So I'm going to go cook some dinner and I will talk to everybody very, very soon. I love you. I appreciate all of you. Enjoy this full moon. Bye.